Sorry. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I was going to say we haven't done this in a couple of months, so I think everybody forgot they have to unmute themselves. All right.
Hey, can you guys hear
Commissioner
me?
Smith, I'm trying to elevate you to panelist, but you need to accept it.
Well, there's two Commissioner Smiths. I show one is already elevated and one not.
Yep,
Okay.
so do I.
All right, great. Well, there's one not elevated. That's what I'm talking about. But as long as
Can I do a mic check?
you're
Yeah, Kevin, we can
hear
hear
you.
you.
When I clicked start video, it says unable to start video, can't start your video because the host has stopped it. Have you ever seen that before?
Same.
That's the
Yes.
same with me.
okay, just 1 second. We're using a centralized Zoom for the first time, so people have to be patient.
No worries. I thought it was something wrong with my laptop.
Same, Tiffany.
Okay. There you go. You should be able to do it now.
I also tried to promote
Oh, okay.
Commissioner.
There we go.
I also tried to promote Commissioner Cohen, and it said he declined. So Commissioner Cohen, you have to please accept the promotion.
All right. Okay, I think we can get started. So I will officially call the meeting to order. It is 7:02. Can we take a roll call, please?
Yes. 4B01.
Present.
Commissioner Palmer,
Yes.
just to double check that we're recording this because I don't see the notification.
It says it's recording, but I don't know how to confirm that.
Okay, it's fine.
I don't
Then I'm
have-
sure it is. Okay,
Second, I see it as well.
all right.
I don't,
you.
so I just pressed the record button on my end just in case, and it
Okay.
let me do that.
Yes, for anyone listening in, this is our first time with an Office of ANC's centralized Zoom account, so we're sorting through some of the technical specifics. Okay, 4B01,
Present.
4B02 is present, 4B03,
Present.
4B04,
Present.
4B05,
Present.
4B06,
Present.
4B07,
Present.
4B08,
Present.
4B09, not present, 4B10.
She's present. She's on mute though.
You
There
just
you
wait.
go.
Yeah,
Oh, present. Sorry.
thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Chair Brooks, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Um, so I'll just, as always, give our spiel about being on Zoom. We ask that residents use the raise your hand feature if they have a question, or dial *9 to unmute yourself, and we'll acknowledge you and give you the floor. With that, let me go. I'm looking, why am I struggling to find the agenda on the website? Which I know it's there, but this is all my issue. Here we go. Click here. All right, thank you. So consideration and approval of the September 2024 regular public meeting agenda. The meeting was properly noticed and distributed. Does anyone have a question or a concern about the agenda?
Chair Brooks.
Yes.
I would like to move to modify the agenda. An agenda item number 8. I would like to request that we strike resolution 4B240905 supporting and providing feedback request for special exemption at 245 Peabody Street Northwest, and replace it with an item that I am prepared to offer tonight. Draft resolution 4B240906 supporting special exception at 245 Peabody Street Northwest.
Okay.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Aye.
I oppose.
Okay.
And I'm abstaining.
Okay.
I'm
Any,
abstaining as well.
okay.
Liam.
I'll
Alice,
be-
Chair Brooks, how did you vote on this one?
I didn't yet. I
Okay.
actually thought, I actually wasn't expecting a removal from the agenda, so that caught me by surprise. I'm sorry. I thought, I knew that there would be an addition to the agenda, but not a removal from the agenda. So,
Chair Brooks, just to explain, I don't believe we can consider two, like, because theoretically, if we were to consider two resolutions on the same topic and they both were to pass, right, we would provide conflicting reports out of one meeting to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So we have to strike one to replace to the other to speak on the same topic. If we were to, if we support, right, if we were to consider and pass two resolutions, right, hypothetically, then we would provide conflicting reports to the board.
true. I guess I had the expectation that both would be discussed before you reached this place, but we're here now. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the only spot to modify the agenda.
Chair Brooks, I have a question.
Well, we have an open vote on
yeah,
the
we have an open
floor.
vote, so we can't have the discussion at this moment.
Okay, point of order, then, what I
Yeah.
will say is that I believe
Because
that.
even I have a question, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
I think that it's my understanding that the resolutions have to be titled the same in order to remove one. Is that, I may
No.
be incorrect here.
No, that's not true. Unfortunately, that's, I
Like if
don't
we're
believe that to be-
replacing,
I think what you're asking, Commissioner Yates, is actually two separate things. You're asking to add something to the resolution, to the agenda, and you're asking for something to be removed from the agenda. And I think that they should be voted on separately, quite honestly. And I think that we can go back to Robert's Rules of Order. Commissioner Palmer, can you act in this instance as parliamentarian and confirm what I'm saying? Or Commissioner Smith as Vice Chair, can you check Robert Rules of Order also and confirm what I'm saying? But I do believe that this is two separate transactions, and I
I
believe
think this
one-
is your call to decide on separating this vote out, if you'd like to do that.
Oh, gee. Okay.
And it's
So-
perfectly fine to do it as two separate votes.
I think it should be two separate votes in this case. I think we can vote to add something. You're right, this is the only point on the agenda where we can add something or delete something. That is true. But I think this should be two separate votes. I also think that there can be discussion around the removal of the item before we move and go to the vote. Am I within my boundaries, Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Palmer?
Yes, this is
Okay,
fine under the rule.
let's vote to add your item to the agenda, Commissioner Yates. So we're gonna separate, so can you please move to add your item to the agenda? We'll go from
Yeah,
there.
I move to add resolution 4B 240906 entitled Supporting Request for Special Exception at 245 Peabody Street Northwest, BZA case number 21101.
Is there a second? Okay, all in
I
favor?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Berry, that's an aye. Okay, that's
Yes, aye.
everyone that's present. All right, now, with
Wait,
regard
that
to
was
removing-
that was a
I-
unanimous vote?
I'm sorry, it was not
No,
unanimous.
I'm opposing that.
I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand, actually. So that is 8-1. Commissioner Cohen is opposing. Everyone else voted in favor.
That's correct. Okay.
That's correct. I saw every other hand. Okay.
Just confirming, since this is slightly complicated procedurally.
Yes, let's just make sure we get it all right. Okay, now, with regard to the agenda and item number 8 on the agenda, we are not striking item number 8 because that is a presentation. We are, however, discussing whether or not we are including resolution 4B24095, supporting and providing feedback regarding request for special exception at 245 Peabody Street Northwest, BZA case number 21101, Commissioner Cohen, on the agenda. Now, so at this moment, we're going to have discussion and then we can have a motion after discussion. Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I would just suggest that we strike this because I don't think that we should put ourselves in the position of the potentially forwarding 2 separate resolutions to the Board of Zoning Adjustment on the same topic that contain conflicting advice. If we wish to try to amend, clearly there's support for adding 4B 240906. If we wish to amend it from the floor, we can consider those amendments, but I think we should only consider one resolution on the topic. So I'm suggesting that we strike 0905 from the agenda.
Commissioner Cohen, before you respond, because I think you wanted to respond, I want to add something. I would expect that if there is support for 4B240906, that inherently means there's not support by those same people for 0905. And if that's the case, then there should be no reason to remove it from the agenda, and a vote straight up and down would clarify all of this. Does anyone disagree with that? Commissioner Smith? Okay. Commissioner Yates?
I think as I informed
Commissioner
the commissioners in the email before this, I think my concern is commissioners abstaining from a vote, leading to a resolution being decided by a not I don't know, it's technically a majority of those voting, but not a majority of those present in the meeting, right? So that continues to be my concern here. This is why I offered a separate resolution, that I think that there's a duty here to represent the opinion of the commission as a whole. But if the other commissioners, if you think that a straight up or down vote will resolve it and that we won't face that concern, I'm happy to withdraw my motion. But that just, I will say, remains my concern here, that we would end up with a resolution that isn't representative of the position of the commission actually, and that also that we would send possibly 2 conflicting resolutions to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
That actually clears up why you presented it in the way that you did. I think that I have the expectation that people have to have the courage of their convictions. So if they're going to stand behind 4B0906, then they can't stand behind 0905 because they're not the same, right? But that's just me. Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, I agree. I think that both of these should be voted on. I think they contain different information in them. And like you said, if the commission wants to vote down, up or down, 0905 or 0906, I think that's what the commission should do. We should have a vote on it.
Now, that being said, Commissioner Yates, you have every right to make your motion. And if it's seconded, then it'll be voted on. And if 4B05 is presented and it is seconded, then it will be voted on, which is in itself an assumption.
Very well, Chair Brooks. I'll defer to your judgment on this. If you think that the 2 resolutions can stand separately, I'll withdraw my motion.
I think they should be voted on up and down. And people have to stand where they may. And I think if they are both voted on and both passed, I think a cover letter will explain why there are 2 resolutions. Commissioner Smith? Vice Chair Smith?
I agree with that.
Okay.
We, just a point of order, we do need to still vote on the agenda as amended.
Yes, I'm not. So are you withdrawing then? Are we not voting on the second motion?
I believe I already did, Chair Brooks, yes.
Okay, all right. Then in that case, with the amendment to include resolution 4B 240906, is there a motion to accept the agenda as revised?
I make so motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's everyone. All right. Well, we're just off to a start, aren't we? All right. Oh, I forgot my plug. I don't know how we created an agenda when the Washington Commanders are playing on Monday night, but apparently I didn't have the schedule when we created the year-long schedule for the ANC. And so someone's going to have to give us some updates as the meeting goes on, and we're going to keep everyone to their allotted times so that we can ensure that those of us that indeed support the Washington Commanders and NFL football can at least see half the game. All right. So now we're going to move on to the approval of the June 2024 public meeting minutes. Everyone has received a copy of those minutes and they have been posted to our website. Does anyone have any question or concern with regard to the minutes? None. Seeing none, hearing none, then the minutes are approved by acclamation. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report, the approval of the quarterly financial report for the third quarter of FY24, and the approval of the budget for the fiscal year 25, actually. This is a typo. It's
Yes.
FY25. I just
Thank you.
realized that.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry.
Chair Brooks. The draft budget, and the quarterly fiscal report were both circulated in advance and are posted on the website. They reflect normal expenditures for the previous quarter, as well as a responsible financial plan that allows us to continue to spend down our balance in service of our community. Given that, I move that we approve both the draft budget. I mean, actually, I believe we should approve these as separate motions. So I'm going to move that we
We need to
approve.
ask if anyone has any question with regard to either.
Well, I thought we were supposed to allow discussion after a motion.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to move the approval of the third quarter fiscal year 24 financial report.
Is there a second? I'll second. Is there any discussion? No. All in favor of the approval of the third quarter FY 2024 disbursement?
Aye.
Or,
Aye.
excuse me, QFR, not disbursement. That's everyone. Michael, I don't see your hand. Are you voting against or?
You
Okay.
did.
So that's everyone. Next would be the budget.
Yeah, this was a collaborative budget with the executive committee. So I'm going to go ahead and move it, and then that way we can get a second open up for discussion if anybody has anything they want to add. So I'm going to move the approval of the fiscal year 25 budget.
I'll second. Is there any question or concern? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I believe that's everyone. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to ANC 4B's annual report for the art submission competition. Last year, in a stroke of genius, joking, we decided to create an art competition to include the art of local students in our annual report. It was very successful. The kids really enjoyed it. They won a small prize. We awarded them those small prizes after the published copies of the annual report were available. And we are going to do it again this year. The requirements are that students either live in 4B or attend school in 4B. We will be reaching out to all of the schools. We will have 3 categories. It was basically elementary, middle, and high school categories with first, second, and third place in each category. So you will have kids that are completing grades, K through 4, K through 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then 9th through high school. Okay. I'm asking every commissioner to take the flyer and put it out on your distribution channels, as well as we'll get it out to all of the schools. Residents that are on the call tonight can have their child submit their art to their commissioner, and we'll evaluate it from there. We'll have an independent judge and award prizes. And I think I've covered every aspect of this. There's a deadline, which I don't have open. Commissioner Palmer, do you know the deadline?
Yes, and I just shared the flyer in the chat. It's
Wonderful.
October 28th, I believe. Yep, October 28th. And that flyer has the details as well.
All right, thank you very much. Item F, ANC 4B professional website translation. Commissioner Palmer.
This is Commissioner Yates.
Oh, Yates, I'm sorry.
Yes, this is just an update report. The commission has paid for and received 2 very good professional website translations into Spanish and in Amharic. The process of updating our website to allow for the multilingual capabilities is underway and will hopefully be complete before too long. But that is still underway, and we look forward to having a trilingual website so that all in our community may benefit from the information available on the ANC4B website.
Thank you. All right, commissioner updates. We'll go in numerical order. 4B01.
All righty, welcome back, everyone. Just a reminder that as the season changes with all of the issues that may arise, trash cans, lights, lawns not being cut, you can reach out to 311 and get a case number, a record number. And if you want to share that with me to follow up if the situation is not resolved, please do so. But that's our first line of support. So just a reminder there. And that is it for 4B01.
Thank you. 4B02.
Yes, thank you, Chair Brooks. I have a few updates based on the summer recess, so thank you for indulging. My next monthly community cleanup will be Saturday, October 5th at 10 a.m. The meet spot will be Butternut and Georgia, not the usual spot by Safeway. This will be a combined sidewalk palooza where we focus on reporting via 311 sidewalk and other pedestrian issues. My next office hours will be October 14th at 10 a.m. And for the next several months before the end of the term, my office hours will focus on submitting 311 requests. So these will be 311 blitzes. And a couple of ANC 4B updates. ANC 4B was at the DC State Fair in early September. We led a beaded bracelet making activity, which was a big hit, and actually talked to a lot of 4B residents at the event. And did a lot of engagement around the work of advisory neighborhood commissions. ANC 4B's executive committee hosted a voter registration party with Coolidge on September 17th, which is National Voter Registration Day. And with support from a lot of community partners, we registered, drum roll, 71 Coolidge students and others to vote, which is really amazing. And I wanted to give a special shout out to our local businesses who donated Sticky Fingers, Lost Sock, Tacoma Station, Simple Bar and Grill, and Lido Pizza, because people who are well fed are also more likely to engage and apparently register to vote. So thank you.
You're welcome. 4B03.
None here.
Okay. 4B04.
Yes, thank you, Chair Brooks. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Palmer for her efforts in the establishing ANC4B's presence at the State Fair. It's not an understatement to say that we were deluged at that booth and made a lot of great contacts with constituents in 4B and citywide. I did want to note that upcoming at the Tacoma Park Street Festival, Saturday, October 6th, ANC4B will have a booth to engage with constituents in our community who happen to come through to talk about various needs, but with a focus on pedestrianism and ensuring that people are able to walk around our communities safely and securely. So I hope to see everyone there.
Thank you. 4B05.
Hey, everybody, good evening. Just traffic safety updates. Over the past few months, we've seen 3 speed humps be installed in 4B05. And we just received last week the notice of intent to change the 9th and Quackenbos intersection from a 2-way stop to an all-way stop, which I'm very excited about. That'll also come with installation of some no parking signs to improve sight lines to that intersection as well. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Okay, 4B06.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Just wanted to give a shout out to all of the Coolidge Colts that came out on September 7th for our community cleanup of Fort Slocum and the surrounding areas. We picked up over 10 bags of trash. I don't even know how many pounds of glass bottles. So thank you to my Coolidge Colts. Thank you to National Park Service for being out there as well. Also wanted to give an update that the expected time for a new crossing guard at 2nd and Peabody is supposedly some point in October. I'm following up with DDOT as they train their most recent cohort to assume that posting. In the interim, I'm just again asking all of our parents, our students to be just extra vigilant as you traverse that area until we get a designated crossing guard. Thank you so much. That is it for me.
Okay, 4B07.
Hey, neighbors. Just a couple quick updates. The first one is that I expect to have my September newsletter out sometime this week. And we will be having a SMD meeting at Lamond Recreation Center at 10 a.m. on the 28th, which is Saturday. A reminder that there's also a BZA hearing for the item number 8 tonight on October 2nd. And that's all for me.
All right, 4B08 is next, which is me. Over the last few months, we were in recess. I did meet with residents that were interested in working on the retail scenarios and suggestions for the Kennedy Street corridor inside of 4B08. So that's the unit block of Kennedy Street Northwest through 2nd Street Northwest specifically that we were discussing. We had our first meeting. We were supposed to have a meeting again in September. However, that did not work out. My schedule did not allow for that. So we're going to have a meeting in early October. I'm working to include government representation in that meeting. Gabriella from Uptown Main Street was gracious enough to attend the first meeting and explain exactly the role of the Main Street programming. And so that is something that's coming out of that meeting. We actually got 2 really good suggestions for businesses that we're now looking into. And hopefully, something will come from that. The Center for Homeless Prevention recently opened and is a new part of that community and looking to engage. They actually have meeting space, and hopefully we'll be able to have our next meeting at that location. I'm waiting to hear back from them on a viable date. Next Saturday evening is Art All Night, and there are 2 locations inside of 4B08 where there will be activations. One will be in front of I'll just use the whole corridor, the Riggs Road corridor, from Troca Insurance over to Walmart, across over to by the dry cleaner, and then down by down by the subway station where the Friday night music events are always held. There will be music there as well. There will also be music in front of Jackie Lee's, and I believe there's something going on at 3rd and Kennedy, which is technically outside of my SMD, but close enough. So there's lots of fun and exciting things to do next Saturday night if you're looking for some art in your life. I've gone every year and it's always a good time. And I see, neighbors and folks that I don't get to see every day. So I enjoy and invite everyone to come on out and hang out and have a good time. All right, 4B10, excuse me.
Hi, so during the summer, Mr. our Commissioner Cohen and I had a safety meeting due to a shooting that happened at the Lamont Rec Center, and unfortunately, a 14-year-old lost their life. And so we had Yamla from the mayor's office was there, and people, MPD. And also tomorrow is Tuesday, September 24th, is a community meeting from 6 to 7 p.m. with Parks and Recreation Department General Services at Riggs Road Northeast and South Dakota Northeast. And then they're going to talk about future renovations of the green space at that intersection. That's all for me. Thank you.
Actually-
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Oh, I just wanted to say, so anybody who's in my S&D, and then a lot of people call me. I would say try to email me. My hearing isn't good, so it's better if you email, text me, and I have like my number and stuff. I'll put it there so you can contact me.
Okay. I did leave out 2 meetings on on Saturday, the 28th. The Lamont Ridge Civic Association is having an event where residents can come out and speak with a retirement planner. That meeting will be held at the Lillian Huff Library. And for more information, you can reach out to Barbara Rogers or any of the board members for the Lamont Ridge Civic Association. And I will be sending out a notification with regard to that. And my other notification just slipped my mind yet again. There were 2 things. That was it. And there was something else. Oh, well, I cannot remember. So we will have to move on. We'll move to the community concerns section of the agenda. And we ask that you use the raise your hand function or the *9 option if you're on your phone, and each resident will have 1 minute. And we will move on in an effort to consolidate like concerns. If there are groups of people that have one issue, we ask that you have 1 spokesperson to address those issues. Okay, we will get started. Oh, I'm sorry. And before we start, we ask that all residents identify themselves with their names. We don't respond to unidentifiable contact information like iPhone 7262 or whatever. I'm making that up. But to reduce the potential for Zoom bombings, we ask that you identify yourself by tagging your name in the Zoom. Okay, Joshua, you have a minute. Joshua, if you're trying to speak, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. I'm Josh Toll. I live in Manor Park with my family, and I wanted to share my family's concerns about the proposed project at 245 Peabody, which is part of tonight's agenda. We understand the need for affordable daycare in our community. However, we don't believe that this location is feasible for a project of this size. We live on Peabody. We use it every day. The street is just simply not big enough to have a daycare of the proposed size. It will absolutely gridlock traffic and prevent residents like me from using Peabody during the pickup and drop off times, which is particularly problematic because I need to drive to work in the morning. We have reviewed the traffic study that was done, and we do not find that it has credibility. We believe that it's an outcome-driven document, and we don't think that it should be viewed as an adequate basis for a project of this size. So for those reasons, we are opposed to this project, and thank you for listening to my perspective.
Thank you. Let's go with Jocelyn Johnson.
Okay. Hello. I just wanted to ask Ms. Palmer if she had an update about the repaving of the 6500 block of 8th Street Northwest. They were going to be looking back.
I reached out to, I'm sorry, are you finished? I'm sorry.
No, I was just trying to remind you that that was something that was carried over from before the break.
Yes, I did email with DDOT about it and have an email I can forward you. They said they were still looking into it, but I'm happy to follow up again.
So that means nothing. Okay. Okay. No worries. So but you have it still on your radar screen.
Yes, I would say I follow up about every 2 weeks. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jamison? Mr.
Hello,
Jameson?
am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Yes, my name's Brandon Jameson. I'm the homeowner of 223 Peabody Street. I'm right next door to 245 Peabody. I'd like to voice my support for the resolution that my ANC, Michael Cohen, submitted. I think that's 4B 240904. I think that provides a more accurate reflection of the sentiment of the immediate neighbors next to the abandoned church. I have kids as well, so I typically take them to school, and I'm familiar with the commute, and it's a very difficult and challenging situation during peak hours, drop off and pickup in particular, due to the capital city public charter school being right next door. I find myself having to wait a minute or two to even get out of my car due to the amount of traffic that's coming back and forth during those peak hours. I know my wife's car has been sideswiped and we have substantial damage to her vehicle. My side view mirror has been sideswiped as well. And I can only imagine that once we add additional staff parking to this location and we add 20 to 30 additional cars coming through this area, that it's going to make the situation much more difficult with respect to traffic and parking. So for those reasons, I support Mr. Cohen's resolution. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Tara?
Yes, sorry, just wanted to make sure can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. So my name is Tara Jameson. I live with Brandon next door to the 245 Peabody Street site. I wanted to make mention that I'm disappointed that the commission has decided to put forth a competing resolution to undermine my commissioner's proposed resolution. The alternate resolution not only strips out any mention of concerns regarding potential community impacts, it diminishes the impacted neighbors' issues by saying some neighbors on Peabody Street expressed concerns. Have you seen the petition? There are almost 50 signatures from neighbors on Peabody, Quackenboss, Oglethorpe, 2nd and 3rd Street. So I'm wondering, why is a resolution in support of the project with measured inputs on community impacts unacceptable? I'm new to the neighborhood, but I wouldn't think our leadership would rubber stamp district government reports. Yes, the traffic statement numbers calculate correctly in accordance with the CTR, despite my belief that the trips are grossly understated. But do we all really believe that with 80 kids and 20 staff, there will only be 20 vehicle trips during AM peak hours, 8:15 to 9:15? To add insult to injury, the alternate resolution suggests later hours may be appropriate for shift workers. I wanted to provide notice that I will now be filing a Form 140 request for party status. And on the Form 153, where I'm asked why I'm filing late, I'm going to say that on September 23rd, I learned that my ANC was going to ignore and cover up my concerns. So I decided I needed to represent my own interests and the neighbors that signed the petition directly. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. UMS info, is that Dr. Guard?
I think that's Uptown Main Street.
Ah, okay. Gabriella, is that you? If it is, you're on mute. Okay, let's come back. Let's go to Miss Anderson. Yep.
I parrot Tara's words. My name is Janelle Anderson. I'm at 211 Peabody Street. I'm awfully curious that Commissioners Yates, Johnson, Homer, Brooks, and Colson wrote an opposing resolution when the resolution was originally written by our ANC person of 4B07. Shouldn't you guys have gotten together and talked this thing out? opposed to having two separate resolutions. And not
Yes, we
only
should
that,
have.
if you did, you should not have brought it to our attention at this meeting. It seems as if this commission is divided and you can't come to a resolution. So I'm just very disturbed that this happened. And there are so many people who are against the renovation of the abandoned church. Why is it? I would like to know who are the people who want this thing to come about. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. So before you move to the next raised hand, let's address some of what was said. So yes, we all should have been able to have a conversation and come to a place where we could have a resolution that everyone could represent. That didn't happen. And why that didn't happen was not, there could be a lot of conversation around why that did not happen. Everyone can have their own opinion around why that did not happen. And in fact, I think it should have happened. And I've said that to everyone. So you're right, Ms. Anderson, it should have happened and it didn't happen. And these two resolutions are not opposing because both resolutions support the daycare. So I want to clarify that as well. One resolution is not anti-daycare. The other resolution is not anti-daycare. So I don't want to give that impression to anyone and not say that now. We can move. Commissioner Cohen, do you want to address why everyone didn't get together and have a conversation, or are we just going to go from here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was ultimately some disagreement around the text. So not the overall, well, the overarching intent of the resolution, but the text that contained in it. And that's where this secondary resolution came about. That's my take on it.
I think my take would be that you provided us with the resolution on its due date, and we had to post something to our website, and there was never an opportunity for all of us to come together and have a conversation around the resolution that you provided. I think that would be the reason why my name is associated with the second resolution, because we never had an opportunity to
Sure. Yes, I would agree
and have a discussion.
I would agree that that timing impacted how this unfolded. I also think that I think timing had a lot to do with it when meetings took place and that sort of thing. I was surprised that there wasn't sort of an agreement to modify my resolution on the fly, or make some friendly amendments to my resolution. Why there needed to be a brand new resolution, I'm a little bit confused by that, but I guess here we are.
I'd just like to say that, I understand the confusion. I, like Commissioner Cohen, and it appears every other commissioner here tonight, support this daycare being built at 245 Peabody Street Northwest. And I appreciate that we're unified in the need for providing high quality childcare seats to families in our community. For the people who are commenting one way or another on opposition for this project, I'd like to just restate what Commissioner Brooks said, what Chair Brooks said, is that both these resolutions are in support of the daycare. And there are a lot of reasons I think that this ended up going this way, but the main reason that I proffered a second resolution is that there was a discussion about this, and it appeared that the majority of the commissioners were going to abstain from voting on Commissioner Cohen's resolution because they disagreed with some of the text of it. And so because of that, it appeared that there may be a resolution that passed that didn't actually follow what the commission intended as a recommendation to the BZA, what the majority of the commission recommended, because of the way Robert's rules works, a vote in abstention is not a vote against. And we're also up against a deadline, right? This project has requested multiple, Commissioner Cohen has requested multiple extensions for the BZA. So we're now at a point where it has to get done, right? And so if we're going to support this project, right, rather than not supporting it altogether, the attempt was made with Commissioner Johnson and myself to find a resolution that would unite everybody in our shared belief that this daycare project should go forward. It's unfortunate, I think, that it doesn't sound like Commissioner Cohen is supportive of this new resolution, but I'm taking comfort in the fact that we're all united in the fact that this daycare project should go forward.
Okay, I just wanted to stop and answer Ms. Anderson's question. And so we need to go back and hear from the rest of the residents. Go to Mr. Berry.
Commissioner Brooks, I'm sorry, but because my name was mentioned, I just would like a moment to discuss, or will there be a time period later?
There'll absolutely be a time period later because it's on the agenda. So there'll be discussion after the presentation, I'm sure.
Okay, I will then defer to that point in time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Berry?
Yeah, Ken Berry, I live on Peabody Street. As a resident of 4B07 that lives directly across the street from Capital City Charter School, I asked the commission to take great consideration of the resolution that was presented by our commissioner, the commissioner of 4B07. Our street is peaceful, and it's the whole reason I chose to buy my house here last year, but I also bought in July before Capital City was reopened for the year. And had I known the way that pickup and drop off at Capital City took place, I probably would have reconsidered buying across the street from the school. And this is coming from someone that lived on 5th and H prior to moving here, and that's a noisy street. But in the morning, starting at 8:15, the swearing, the honking, the yelling, the arguing begins every morning. I know that's my indication that it's almost time for me to start working for the day. If you've never experienced Capital City drop-off, I encourage you to come sit on my front porch with me and watch it. I'll even cater the event. The addition of more traffic during those peak times will create further issues. UPS can no longer deliver in the evening on Peabody because of the fact that they get stuck out there and people sit there and scream and yell at them to the point where we almost had to call the police one day. So it's a huge concern. If this project is justified and it's the right thing to do, presenting both resolutions should not be an issue. The BZA will pick it up, they'll look at it, and they'll say this is the right thing to do. I feel the commission is disregarding the concerns of the people of 4B07 by not presenting the one that Michael created, and mainly those of the people on Peabody that have to deal with this issue on a daily basis. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gabriella?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mm.
And greetings, everybody. This is Gabriela on behalf of Uptown Main Street. I want to thank Chair Brooks for mentioning and letting everybody know that Ardell Night is here this weekend. I just wanted to clarify that on Kennedy Street, the activities are on Friday.
Okay.
And then the Parks Main Street, our colleagues are having also a wonderful program, and that is on Saturday. So that way we don't compete, and you can go to everything. Wonderful. And we have some great stuff along Kennedy Street, including the 100 block, 3rd and Kennedy, 600 block of Kennedy, 700 block of Kennedy, and all the way to Kennedy in Colorado. So there are quite a few things. If you want to keep going, you go down 14th Street, and there's more stuff there. And so there's quite a bit. So you just go to our website. You can, of course, contact us. Go to the website, Uptown Main Street. If you Google, Ardell Night Uptown Main Street, and you'll find the full program there. And everything is free, by the way. So come on out. There is music. Most of it is outside. The music will be outside of Jackie Lee's and outside of most places. And everything is family friendly. So thank you very much for your time. We will have more programming this fall. Thank you all for the great work you're doing and the time.
You.
Thanks.
Looks like Brad is next.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Wonderful. So my concern, of course, I'm very concerned about the CVS and the future of businesses on Kennedy Street, but I'm also concerned by us not having the ability to chat in this meeting. And I think it's important because in a traditional town hall or an environment, we would have the ability to communicate with our neighbors. As I'm listening to my neighbors on Peabody speak about this this body here, we felt as if our concerns were disregarded with the development here on First and Kennedy. And so I would suggest, and I think it would be important for, to me, freedom is about choice. And I would choose to listen to what my neighbors have to type. So I would request that the council would quit, blocking the chat room. And if the issue is related to trolls or moderation, certainly then we can bring in somebody to moderate. And I think that it's important that we, the people, have the ability to communicate with each other. And by not having an in-person meeting, you've removed that ability. Now, by closing the chat, we have less ability, because I am concerned with what my neighbors are saying, so that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're not going to open the chat. You can discuss that with the Office of ANC if you have a concern about how virtual meetings are run across the city with ANCs. That's all I can offer you. We have had people moderate, i.e. manage the chat function or the Q&A function for years, for those that have been coming for that long, and we were still bombed. And so it's more important, I think, in this example, to ensure the integrity of the meeting and not have to cancel the meetings as a whole. And I guess I'll just leave that there. And there are protocols around how we have to conduct these meetings, whether they're in person or virtual. So it's not just a town hall conversation amongst everyone, unfortunately. And that's the training that we receive when we join the commission. Micah.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent, excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you all for running this meeting so well in a virtual environment. My name is Micah Bump. I am a commercial property owner and a board member of Uptown Main Streets on the 3rd Street corridor, the 6200 block and the 500 block of Kennedy Street Northwest. And this is it's in my opinion tonight is in my personal capacity, not in my capacity as a board member for Uptown Main Streets. I just wanted to bring up a point about the second resolution that was presented today, give a different perspective. The third bullet point premises the draft resolution on the lack of childcare in Washington, D.C. As a commercial landowner, we have our commercial property owner, we have 4 tenants or 5 tenants that are child care centers. We had one closed during COVID. We had one replace them. They just closed 2 classrooms due to under enrollment. On 5th and Kennedy, Blandy's and the Children's Hut have both expressed concerns about under enrollment. So the premise that there's a uniform lack of childcare across the city, I think may not be correct in this situation, just based on my experience. And that could be there could be many reasons for that. But if an 80 care, an 80 seat center is built on Peabody, those individuals would most likely be coming from other areas, not the local community. So again, it just underscores the credibility issues with that traffic study if they're talking about 20 cars. And that's just based on my experience of working in the childcare field for the past 2 decades. Thank you.
Stephen? Stephen, are you there? Now you're muted. Can you try to come off mute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
great. Hi, I'm actually Stephen Sipos is my husband. I'm Rachel Egan.
Okay.
Hi, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I appreciate it. I'm also living on Peabody Street, and I wanted to talk a little bit about there was a couple of things that were said that I wanted to address. The first is that I guess I'm disturbed that a motion was made to replace the existing resolution with one that really reverses the entire content of the resolution that my ANC rep had written. And I think that I think it's the fact that even this discussion was almost eliminated by a change in the agenda is really upsetting and feels very anti-democratic to me. And I appreciate Commissioner Brooks that you accepted having both resolutions in the agenda, but beyond that, I think that representing both of these resolutions as very similar because they both support child care center is disingenuous because the fact is, yes, we are not opposing the child care center. And I'm a preschool teacher. I mean, I'm at a school that's got 30 kids that is near a school, and it's a nightmare for parents and teachers to be on that street, and that's a bigger area. But the idea that that we're all in agreement here really glosses over the concerns of the majority of the residents in this area. And I think that there's probably a feeling on your part that maybe this is just a NIMBY thing. We're not, we did our homework. We went and we talked to all our neighbors. This is not a question of us saying, no, there should not be a daycare center here. This is a question of us having looked at the traffic study, having looked at what's already happening and has been happening with Capital City for several years. And so I think that there's something really upsetting about the fact that it looks like a majority of commissioners are willing to disregard what the people in this ANC subdistrict are saying to you. And I would just ask you to look at the actual content of the resolution. And I understand that there might be difficulties with the timing, and that's beyond my you know on my reach. But I just would ask you to look at what we're actually saying and to not disregard that because it's not happening on your street. Thank you.
Andrew?
Hello,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Andrew. I live on 3rd. My house backs onto the area of the church development. All I can say is I'd like to second everything Rachel, Tara, and the other neighbors said. This would be a catastrophe for our neighborhood. The traffic is already terrible. It's unsafe for the kids who are already walking to school. And then you are proposing to put another daycare with increased traffic. I just think this is madness. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we've heard from everyone who raised their hand. We can move on with the agenda and we can have our discussion at that line item. So next would be reports. We'll start with the Mayor's Office on Community Relations and Services. We actually have 2 representatives here, Commissioner Yates, both of whom need to be elevated.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. Sorry. My name is Yamalet Escobar. Thank you guys for having me this evening. For those of you who do not know me, I am the returning Ward 4 Moker. I am now in a new role as the Ward 4 manager. I am here with Leticia Acosta. She is the new Ward 4 Moker as well. I just wanted to just introduce ourselves and just provide a couple of updates, and then I'm gonna open it up for the community if anyone has any questions, as well as any commissioners. Just wanted to share, I was gonna share all night, but we've heard about all the amazing events that are gonna happen in Ward 4. Also, I do want to highlight that it is Hispanic Heritage Month. On behalf of Mayor Bowser, there's tons of events that are happening all over the district. One of the ones that I did want to highlight is Fiesta DC, is the festival that's happening this Saturday on Pennsylvania Avenue between 7th Street all the way down to 3rd Street. There's going to be tons of food, tons of events, parades, concerts. It's just going to be a great time. So I wanted to make sure that I invited the residents if you guys are looking for something else to do and experience. Also, what else did I want to just highlight? That starting tomorrow, the Department of Human Resource is starting to provide flu shots. It is already fall, and the weather decided to give fall today. So just wanted to highlight that if you guys are looking for any flu shot resources for anybody, I can't drop it on the chat, but you can visit Department of Human Resources online, and they'll give a list of all the sites that will be offering the flu shots.
You should be able to use the chat now that you're a panelist.
Oh, okay. So great. I would drop my contact information on the chat, Leticia's contact information on the chat. And for those of you who I guess I can say it out loud, but my telephone number is 202-436-2087. Again, my number is 202-436-2087. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Mokers, I know in previous Mokers have been splitting the wards, but for us in this term, there won't be no split. Me and Leticia will be working closely and shared through all Ward 4. And we are here to stay. There's no longer 2-year terms. We're here until the wheels fall off. So please make sure that you guys. I really would like to meet with the neighbors out in the community. Like, we really are interested in seeing things in person. Shout out to Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Cohen, and Commissioner Johnson for meeting with us already. We would like to extend the invitation to whoever would like to take it, and happy to meet 24/7. We are 24/7, available 24/7. So happy to help where we can. If you guys have any questions, happy to answer it.
Commissioner Palmer?
Yes, I would just highlight my resident Jocelyn Johnson's question about paving of the 6500 block of 8th Street. There have been multiple neighbor requests for many, many years, and that particular block is in terrible condition. And I also wanted to highlight that we've been putting in requests for years to fix the community boards by the tennis court and the dog park. The one by the tennis court doesn't open or function at all, and the one by the dog park is missing pieces. And those requests have been in for several years, I think, with DGS. So I would appreciate a nudge on that. Thank you.
Okay, gotcha. 6500 block of 8th Street, and then the gates.
Commissioner Yates?
Yeah, I wanted to ask really quickly about the retail recovery grants for downtown that the mayor has sponsored. I happen to work right near where some of them are in, and they went, for instance, to Union Kitchen, which is like moving back into a space that it vacated in downtown. And I've spoken to like local businesses in Ward 4 who haven't been able to get business grants or support from the city. And I just like trying to figure out the mayor's thinking in like giving money to businesses to take back a vacancy that they created downtown. Like, I get the concept is like we're going to give money to downtown instead of like Ward 4 neighborhoods, like with this whole downtown recovery program. But like trying to figure out like why H&M and Union Kitchen are the ones we're picking when they're going back into vacancies that they created.
Okay, I'm not sure the correct answer to that, so let me do some digging and information, and then I'll reach back out to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gilligan.
Hey, good evening. I'm just following up on a previous request I had with you, Ms. Escobar, on relocating one of the two trash cans, public trash cans from 9th and Quackenbos over to 9th and Sheridan. There's currently two at the 9th and Quackenbos intersection and no cans at the 9th and Sheridan intersection. There are cans at every intersection on 9th in between. There's a large demand for that public trash can at 9th and Sheridan, and it's in line with previous justification for installation of trash cans along the 9th Street corridor there, adjacent to Georgia Avenue. I will bump up the previous email thread from back in June that we had on this, and if you any support or insight you could provide on that would be really appreciated by the community. Thank you.
Yes, I actually did hear back from DPW. I can forward you what I was. I'll forward you the email that I received right after this.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen.
Hi, Yami and Letitia. Yami, I just wanted to say thank you for coming to our meeting in August after the shooting at the Lamond Rec Center. And I also wanted to thank Candace Tiana Nelson and Barbara Rogers as well. I heard from a lot of folks in the community who were just glad to see you there, glad to see a presence of leadership, both from the council member's office and the mayor's office. And I think that it was a really good thing to have you out there. So thank you again.
Of course.
All right. It looks like we might have a question from Jocelyn Johnson.
You hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Okay. I just wanted to welcome Ms. Yami and Letitia. I'm Jocelyn Johnson, chairperson for the Ward 4 Mini Commission. And we had given Derek and Sophia a couple of trash can replacement requests for several months, and that kind of got lost too. So is it possible, since I got your email off the chat, can I follow up with you both on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. And thanks, Aaron, about 8th Street. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Michael, did you just not take your hand down, or do you have another question? Okay. That appears to be all of the questions.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be here.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to keep going. And I know the agenda says Barbara Rogers, but it's actually Candace Nelson from Councilmember Louis George's office. Barbara actually is on a well-deserved vacation this weekend and is not back yet. Ms. Nelson? You're on mute. There you go.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Candace Tiana Nelson. Some of you may recognize me as a fellow commissioner from across Georgia Avenue as chair of ANC 4A and the commissioner for Single Member District 4A06. Or maybe you recognize me as a person who could have been politically active for a few years in the ward. But setting all that aside, tonight I'm representing Ward 4 in a new way as the new chief of staff for Councilmember Janice Louis George. After 16 long years in the district's executive branch, I've crossed over to the other side, to the legislative branch, to support our council member and our entire ward. So here are some updates. Last week was the council's first week back into session after returning from the legislative recess. Our first legislative and committee of the whole meetings yielded progress on several important bill proposals, including legislation to ban contractors from building without a license, addressing the shortage of home health aides, and providing free prostate cancer screenings for patients in the district. Since December will mark the end of the council period, any legislation that hasn't passed will need to be reintroduced. There will be many more legislative updates to share, so please make sure that you sign up for the council members newsletter for more updates. Applications for emergency rental assistance, that is ERAP, open on October 1st at 12 p.m. ERAP supports tenants who are facing overdue rent, late fees, or eviction, and is one of the best resources available for people struggling to afford the cost of housing. Funds run out quickly, so if you are going to apply, make sure that you do it very timely, and I'll drop some information in the chat about that. DC's low-income emergency assistance program, LIHEAP, opens October 1st. So LIHEAP assists income eligible district households with heating and cooling energy costs. So eligible households may receive energy bill assistance between $250 and $1,800 as a one-time regular emergency assistance benefit. Let's talk about the STEER Act. The STEER Act, which was passed earlier this year, is going into effect on October 1. The bill cracks down on repeat reckless drivers and will allow OAG to bring cases on behalf of the community starting on October 1. So we are working with OAG to determine the process of making referrals and look forward to the bill going into effect. DC's Department of Public Works maintains the sidewalk shoveling exemption program, which exempts the disabled and senior residents from removing snow and ice from their sidewalks during inclement weather for the first 8 hours of daylight after each storm. Out all night, I heard Yami mention that, but we are going to be busy this weekend. DPR's annual Art All Night will also be Friday and Saturday, September 27th and 28th. So make sure that you check the events. We'll drop that information in the chat. Some speed limit changes we want to make sure that you are aware of. DDOT is planning 2 speed limit changes, which will affect us. On New Hampshire Avenue between Georgia Avenue and Eastern Avenue, the speed limit will be reduced from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. Saddens me. It really does. On Georgia Avenue from Calmere Road to Berry Place, the speed limit will be reduced from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. We got to get up a little earlier in the morning. Right, so some OUC concerns. I know you guys have them. I think it was raised. I think Barbara said you guys were talking about this last month. So over the last few weeks, we've been very concerned. We've heard about the worsening delays and the staffing issues that the Office of Unified Communications is having. You guys know that that's 911 operations. So Councilmember Lewis George has requested a joint hearing with DGS and OCTO to get a better understanding of the problem and to determine a path forward. We are also grateful to see that Councilmember Pinto is committed to holding monthly oversight hearings and bi-weekly unannounced visits to OUC. So that's going to be some interesting pop-ups there at the 911 Operations Center. I know you guys are also interested in South Dakota and Riggs. Tomorrow evening, DPR will hold an in-person community meeting on the proposed park on the border of wards 4 and 5 on Riggs Road in South Dakota there. So I'll drop in the chat information where you can RSVP for that. And there are a few DC Water updates here. So for the remainder of the week, DC Water is expecting to perform installation and pressure testing on new 6-inch pipe and fire hydrants at Quintana Place or Quintana Place. What else do I have for you guys? Let's
Not
see.
much.
It's a lot, you know, it is.
I know, but you've exceeded your time limit already.
Oh, I have? Okay, well, I'll
minute.
just wrap up by saying, you know what our office hours are. We're now 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We telework on Fridays. Sign up for the newsletter. I'll put everything else in the chat. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry to had to treat you so poorly on your first visit to our home.
Oh, it's fine. You know, I couldn't. I'm the queen of the cutoff.
Commissioner
Do
Palmer,
your
do you have
job, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Palmer, do you have a question for Commissioner Nelson?
I do.
For Ms. Nelson, I almost called you Commissioner. I'm sorry.
Well, she is still a
She
commissioner.
is still a commissioner, but she's not here now.
I am.
So one quick point I wanted to raise is that I know the council member's office received a recent email about traffic safety issues at Underwood and Piney Branch, the 800 block of Underwood, which is a one-way that people speed the wrong way on. Just wanted to highlight
Yes.
that, and that there was a walkthrough a few months ago where it was suggested that there maybe wasn't action because the ANC hadn't done anything on it. So we have passed a resolution. The ANC has acted and called for traffic calming at that location. And we're hopeful that there can be some assistance from your office in pushing that. And then the question I have is actually about emergency rental assistance and whether the council member's office has views on the recently proposed Emergency Rental Assistance Reform Amendment Act, which would actually limit emergency rental assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I was copied on an email where you shared the resolution. So I will read into that and we can see where we can assist with the traffic calming piece there. As it pertains to ERAP, you know, we would like for, you know, there to be no restrictions. But we are looking into, you know, the bill. I don't know where the council member will land on that, but we would prefer no restrictions to ERAP.
Okay, Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on your commentary on OUC. This is an
Yes.
issue that has been of interest to the commission for a long while. Those of us who've been around for a bit know that this commission has been passing resolutions for and talking about this issue for about 6 years now. And our last resolution was almost a year ago this date. And I wanted to ask how the council member feels about the bills that are currently being proffered and if they go far enough. In particular, our last resolution called for increased transparency, passing legislation to mandate that certain information is routinely made transparent like it is in other 911 jurisdictions, with regards to like being able to monitor time to dispatch and time to arrival on scene routinely for OUC, and just seeing what the council members' plan is with regards to that resolution, with regards to the other bills that are being proffered, and if she thinks that council member Pinto's offering is sufficient.
I think right now the council member is just interested in, you know, joining the joint hearings that she's requested. I mean, we're really trying to see, you know, who is going to state they're responsible, or if there's going to be collective, you know, responsibility for what's going on between DGS, OCTO, OUC, and how those agencies can work together to provide better service that will ultimately keep us safe.
Yeah, I would just say that like, you know, my personal hope would be that like, having this been an issue for my constituents the entire time I've been in office, that hopefully we'll move eventually past the time for hearings and into the time for real improvements at OUC, since I'm on my way out now after 3 terms.
Same.
Okay, Commissioner Berry.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Berry.
Yes. So when you mentioned that the speed limit was going to be lowered on New Hampshire from Eastern to Georgia, it reminded me, this is something that I talked to DDOT, and I know Commissioner Brooks has worked on, the New Hampshire Avenue Northeast from like Eastern to about, I think it's like past Oneida, I think, or Oglethorpe, needs to be like the line needs to be redone because it's not there. And I recently got a bike and y'all cannot jive, so I'm scared. So we just need like it's been repaved. Well, I don't know if it was repaved, but work was done. And so you know, the line seems to be it's like non-existent between lanes, like going both directions, and then between like, you
There are
know,
no lines on the street.
so
Literally, there are no
yes.
lines on the street other than the yellow line on a 4-lane street.
None.
DDOT will be out on Wednesday, however, so they'll get this opportunity to see it firsthand during rush hour. And it's a request that's been made for the last 6 years to get striping on the street. And then they came out and redid the yellow lines, but they never did the white lines to distinguish between lanes and the breakdown lane on the far right. So that's what she's making reference to.
Okay.
She wasn't talking about my driving, however.
I didn't think she was talking about mine.
She's talking about
Yeah.
Maryland
No, y'all are
coming
good.
into the city. That's what she was talking about, really.
Yeah, if you can shoot me an email. My email address is C Nelson, NELSON at dccouncil.gov. And I'll give you my cell phone as well. It is a 202-568-3909.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions. I think you're free to go off camera.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. All right, let me go back to my agenda. So next we would have State Board of Education Representative Fraser O'Leary. Is he here? Did we lose him? Oh, I see him.
Okay, there I am.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I have just a couple of things, to be honest with you. The last time we met, I mentioned to you about a nursing resolution that we were working on trying to get nurses in all of our public schools. And we passed that resolution at our last public meeting 2 weeks ago. And so we will send that forward to the council. We're also working on a cell phone resolution on trying to ban cell phones from the classrooms in all of our schools in DC. What we have found out in talking to all kinds of schools and people in the schools and students and teachers and principals is that what we're looking for is for the mayor, since the mayor is in charge of education, and to talk to the chancellor and the public charter school board to make sure that all of our schools have a cell phone policy, because all of our schools don't have a cell phone policy. We really want the cell phones not to be in the classrooms, but if they're in the classrooms, then we want them to make sure that they're not available to the students while they're in class. So that's what we're working on right now. One thing I want to mention to everybody is we really need more community involvement in the schools. That's not to say that everyone isn't involved with the schools, but I need to know as your representative if something's going wrong with your school or with your child's school or with your neighbor's child's school so that we can work with that. And one thing that I've noticed in my 6 years on the board is that I haven't had a lot of people call me, and my number's out there all the time. My email is available all the time. Most people even know where I live, 1318 Farragut. So you can drop your books off on my porch. That's the last thing I'll mention. And the last thing before that is our teachers are still working without a contract. And on October 1st, which I think is next Monday, I might be wrong. On October 1st, they will have been working without a contract for a year. And I'll call them the negotiations with the chancellor, but they're not negotiating. And the teachers haven't worked with a contract for over a year now, which to me is a crime. And I also want to mention about Mrs. O'Leary's books. We've delivered over 500 books in the last 2 weeks because of the great donations from our community. So please continue to donate the books and we'll get the books to the schools. And I'm open for questions.
Wonderful. I'll kick it off. I have a question and a comment around the cell phone policy. I'm sure most people know I have a child that's still in school, in high school. And while I agree that cell phones are a distraction and they should not be out while kids are in class, I have an issue around what the policy will look like. I support the policy, but I don't think the school should take my property that I paid over $1,000 for, because every cell phone costs $1,000 now, and not have any responsibility for how it is stored and or returned. People in the school that my daughter attends, the phones are broken, they're cracked, they're lost, they're given to the wrong student. You can have a policy that says don't use your phone in class, and then you can have a consequence when the phone is used in class. But I don't think you should unilaterally take my property from my child and not allow her recourse when it's damaged.
I agree with you completely, especially after talking to all these different people who have phones or are teachers and students and everything. But we need to have something that allows the schools the autonomy to control this phones not being utilized in the classroom.
I can support that as well. I also will give you a horror story. Last week in school, my daughter had a classmate who collapsed in the hallway while class was going on. She'd gotten a bathroom pass and never made it back to the bathroom. And after a while, the teacher finally noticed that it had been a good little while since the student returned. He went out into the hallway and found her in the hallway. He told the students to call. They went to use the school phone and didn't know how to use it because it wasn't like dialing a regular phone. So that child was delayed in getting assistance because they had no way to call anybody. Somebody actually had to run to the office because those kids who were probably panicked a little bit also, but they didn't know how to dial an extension. They didn't know how to call for help in that moment. And so if you're going to take away the phones after you've taught the kids to use the phones when they see something, say something, then you have to replace it with something so they know how to reach help when they need it.
That I agree completely. And that's how this policy, and we're just starting it because the systems don't have a unilateral policy, general. That's what I'm talking about. We need to have, like other districts and states now, we need to have something that allows freedom, but also keeps the students from being able to do things that they're not supposed to be doing in their classroom.
Absolutely. Commissioner Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Fraser. You and I spoke briefly about this. My concern with regard to the proposed cell phone policy, I first want to echo Commissioner Brooks's comments, but also I want to add that there is a serious disconnect between the information that is provided to students in real time and that which is provided to parents, which is often several hours, if not days, after an incident has occurred. For example, earlier last week, there were reports from the PIO office with Metropolitan Police Department that there had been a series of threats against high schools in the city. I received that via HCMA, via Twitter, but the only response that I initially received from the school was that there was a fire alarm. And I texted my daughter and asked her, is she okay? And she's like, yeah, there's a fire alarm. It was only at the latter part of the day, like 8 hours later, that the school acknowledged that there had been this district-wide threat to schools. And so that is a huge disconnect. If something is going on at my daughter's school, I need to know about it in real time so that I can do, as a parent, what I need to do. And that is something that has happened with my daughter's school, but also I've heard similar situations from other parents who caught hold of my Twitter feed and responded back personally that they are similarly situated. So while I understand that there's a need to keep the students off of their cell phones during the course of the day, there has to be some mode that parents can receive real-time information as to what's going on in the school, and that is not occurring.
I agree. I brought it up with the board at our business meeting, and then we talked about it a little bit the second time at the business meeting, because I think we're trying to act on it because no one else is acting on it. But we will have a panel, I hope, in November about cell phone policy, and I would encourage your participation to give testimony for that and to pass the word. I'll get more word to you before that, but it's something that needs to be acted on by the people in charge of education, the mayor, the chancellor, the deputies mayor, the superintendent, before we're doing it, because I agree with you completely. But there needs to be guidelines about it, just like when Commissioner Brooks was talking about not being able to call the office from the classroom. There are plenty of classrooms that don't even have a phone in the classroom. So there's a revolution in cell phone policy that needs to happen. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you so much. I'll definitely, if you let me know, I will definitely make myself available. Thank
you. I will do that enthusiastically.
Hi, Fraser. I think I'm next. Is that all right, Chair Brooks? Just keep things moving. All right. I just want to ask real quick,
sorry, I was on mute. I thought I was talking. Yes.
You talk about wanting to have a unifying policy across both sector, but as we know, with regards to, class size ratios and various things around discipline and expulsion, that the charter sector has basically said that these universal policies don't apply to them, right? That they can kind of do what they want to do, and there's nothing that the council can do because it interferes with their exclusive right to operate. Do you think that the council will pass a bill that could get implemented that would apply to both sectors? And if so, how do you propose to overcome this position that they have, that such a thing like a cell phone ban, it would be up to the school to decide what they wanted to do?
Well, I as far as having the schools decide what they want to do, as long as they're following a regulation, I don't have a big problem with that. When you're talking about something completely bigger and more different than a cell phone policy, and that is mayoral control or lack of control because the charters, as you said, a lot of the charters don't follow impact. They don't necessarily always do the same kind of standardized testing that they're supposed to do. So there needs to, that's a whole different argument as far as that is concerned. I hope that with us, I know that I'll use Whittier as an example. Whittier has a cell phone policy. Whittier's an elementary school. I was there one day for dismissal, and all of the cell phones came out in this tub, and all the kids just came and took their phones and left the school. There wasn't any kind of hassle. There wasn't anybody, he got my phone or anything like that. Everybody knew what they're supposed to do. Some of our high schools have those plastic bags where you lock them up. Some of them have containers, some of them have lockers, but there isn't any kind of consistency in what is going on with it. And when you're talking about will the council, I hope so. But that all has to do with what we talked about. We passed a resolution about whether or not the State Board of Education had any kind of powers outside of standards and policies and things like that. Because in this law, that's what we have. I know we're running out of time, Chair Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And we
sorry.
still have to get, that's okay. We still have to get to Commissioner Berry.
Oh, okay. I'll make it quick. So I thank you for coming to the event we had in the summer for I think it was at the Riggs LaSalle Rec Center. And I saw you had a table of books, but a lot of the books were for younger kids. So I just recently went through my library and I'm wondering, would you take my Dostoevsky and Nietzsche, or you're looking for books for younger kids?
What we're collecting, although people do give adult books or things like that, what we're collecting is K through 8th grade, middle school on down. All right. But if you have something like that you'd like to share that I might find someone would want to share, you can drop them off on 1318 Farragut Street.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Looks like Jocelyn Johnson has a question. Her hand is raised.
It seems so crazy to hear conversations about communication in classrooms with cell phones and all in 2024, 25. Seems like it would be like an automatic, if you take away the kids' phones or use of it, teachers would automatically have some kind of intercom or something in the world that we live in now, some kind of automatic device or something in 2024, 25. It's a no-brainer. Because somebody could come in with the AK-47s or something. There has to be some communication, and it just seems like that's an automatic.
I agree.
Easy fix, but nothing in DC is easy. But anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Kim, Chair Brooks, the score is tied 7-7.
Oh, we scored.
Yes.
Thank
7-7 tied.
Thank you.
And I don't even look at it.
All right, everybody else gonna have to keep going. We're behind schedule.
Chair Brooks, there's
in
one
my
question I have
effort
for
to
you.
create an opportunity for people to be heard, regardless of whether it's appreciated by everyone, we are running long.
There's one question in the Q&A.
Yes.
Books. Janelle Anderson says, thank you for having nurses in each school. Does that include trauma counselors?
No, it has to do with actual nurses, RNs in each of the schools. But that's just something that I would like to someone to come and testify about too, because we're trying to, when we're talking about trauma, COVID opened up a lot of wounds as far as trauma was concerned that haven't been closed yet. And we need to have people who are mental health people who can help our students with their mental health, and also the people that work in the school buildings. But the resolution has to do with getting a nurse in every school so that that child who in Chair Brooks's daughter's classroom, if there was a nurse, I hope there was a nurse in the building, but we've had a lot of children testify about asthma, about epilepsy, about different kinds of things that happen when the nurse, because some of the schools that don't have nurses have a cohort. So the nurses cover 5 schools. And if that nurse isn't in that building, that child can't be serviced.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, we're
Thank
going to
you.
move on to our committee updates. We're going to start with housing justice.
Yes,
We're gonna
thank you,
speed read
Chair
through the
Brooks.
committee
I will try and be very brief, although there's a lot to cover since the June meeting, but I will be quick. The Housing Justice Committee's Tenant Resource Fair on July 14th was a huge success. We held that at the MLK Library. There were dozens of government agencies and service organizations co-hosted with ANC 1A's Zoning and Housing Justice Committee. We had a meeting on July 3rd and had a presentation on a proposed development at 300 Vine Street. We held a social in August. We met on September 4th and had an excellent presentation from the Department of Housing and Community Development on DC's rent control program. The committee will be working on a tenant resource hub compiled of resources from the Tenant Resource Fair and past meetings and presentations. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 2nd at 7:30 via Zoom. We will have a presentation from the DC Housing Finance Agency on homeownership programs, as well as discuss 2 pieces of proposed legislation related to limiting emergency rental assistance and about how historic preservation interacts with zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yates, you want to take the Vision Zero Committee?
Sure, the Vision Zero Committee last met September 18th at 7 p.m. We had a presentation from George Branyan with DDOT about their sidewalk gap criteria program for filling sidewalk gaps across the city, and from Samar Alhamwada of DDOT's Metropolitan Branch Trail program about an iterative change to the design for the proposed crossing of the Fourth Cedar and Blair intersection as part of the next leg, not the one that is currently under construction, but the next leg of the Metropolitan Branch Trail that is currently designed. And then we also had discussion of the various Vision Zero related items that are on tonight's agenda. Our next meeting is October 16th at 7 p.m. held virtually. Agenda forthcoming later.
Thank you. Commissioner Palmer, you want to take Youth Advisory Committee?
Yes, happy to do so. We held a meeting on August 31st, which was an in-person trip with our youth committee members to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library to see some of their local exhibits about DC history, advocacy, and music. We had a wonderful event that day. We had a virtual meeting on September 15th where we spoke about food deserts and food insecurity, which is an issue of interest to our youth committee members. We heard from a Ward 8 Commissioner, Reverend Wendy Hamilton, and a District Department of Parks and Recreation representative talking about their food, agriculture, and sustainability programs. And our next Youth Advisory Committee meeting will be on October 20th, and you can check the website for additional details once we set those. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, Community Safety and Support Committee.
Good evening, everyone. So our next meeting is going to be this Thursday, September 26th at 7 p.m. I did put the link to that meeting announcement in the chat box. Last month, we had a very good discussion regarding our tenants' rights as well as part 1. And vacant and blighted property legislation from both the Office of the Attorney General as well as the Department on Buildings, which has netted 5 service requests being entered for issues related to vacant and or blighted properties in the community. The next meeting, we will also have the Office of Attorney General coming back to talk about their SAFE Act, which is new legislation being proposed by our Attorney General with regard to further tenant protections. I did get some insight from our Housing Justice Committee about some questions that they would like answered. And I will be posting the recording of that on my website, ANC4B06. please, the meeting link is in the chat. I hope that you will attend.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to the item number 6 on the agenda. It's a presentation, excuse me, a presentation by Cheryl Morse, Consumer Outreach Specialist, and Ade Adiende. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but I don't think I am. Assistant People's Counsel, DC Office of the People's Counsel, mission and work of the office and action on the project Pipes, Washington Gas, 10-minute presentation, 10-minute discussion.
Chair Brooks,
Yes.
I'm bringing them over, but just wanted to express thanks to them in advance because I know they've been waiting around and our front end of our meeting was longer than normal.
Thank you. All right, I'll also say before they start, somebody had a field goal that was no good because I hear screaming from my husband, but I don't know who. All right, Ms. Morris, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm trying to bring my picture up. It's not showing. It's not videoing my picture.
I tried turning your video off and turning it back on again.
Nope, that didn't work.
It didn't work. I don't know. Ade, are you able to bring up your picture?
I'm going to share my screen for the presentation.
Okay, and that's fine. That's
okay.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with mine, but I don't, because it's getting late, I don't hold everyone up. Okay, so sorry about that.
If you're comfortable with that, we are.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, just to introduce my thank you, Commissioner Palmer, for the invitation to speak tonight with ANC 4B. My name again is Cheryl Morse. I am the representative for Ward 4. With me tonight is attorney Ade Adeneye, Neye. I'm sorry, Ada. I'm sorry I messed up your name. I apologize. But we'll be here tonight to speak with you about the Washington Gas Project pipes. So just to tell you a little bit about who OPC is and what we do. OPC is your utility lawyer. We're a consumer advocacy agency within the DC government. We help with utility issues, gas, electric, water, and landline telephone services. You would contact OPC if you're having problems with your have problems with disconnections, your quality of service is not what it should be. You're having issues with third-party suppliers who are in the city, going around really preying on the seniors and the underprivileged and causing their bills to skyrocket. So if you have questions, DC is a city for you where you can make choice. Choice is good, but to make the right choice for yourself, we would be able to help you if you have any questions or concerns, or if you're having problems getting that third-party supplier off of your bill. We also help with billing disputes. When your bills are too high or you just don't understand how to read the bill, they can be very complex. We can also help with payment arrangements. Sometimes people need that to get their service restored. We also offer tips on energy efficiency, how to save each summer and winter, and consumer education just about utilities themselves. We also have a solar division that helps DC residents who are interested in getting solar panels on their home and they have questions. Solar panels, I don't know about you guys, it's very complex, a lot of questions to ask if you're interested, and we kind of help you put it in layman's terms to help make that decision for you. We also every month we put out a newsletter, the OPC Connection. Please go on our website, opc-dc.gov, and sign up for it. It gives you a lot of information about who we are and what we do. We help DC residents when the utilities are asking for rate increases. We take them in front of the Public Service Commission and help decide how much, if any, of that rate increase they are entitled to. We're here for you, DC residents. We're on all of your bills, all of our contact information. And again, our website is opc-dc.gov. And to not hold up everything, because I know the primary discussion would be tonight is the Washington Gas Project pipe. So Ade, I'm going to pass it on to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good evening. I will be speaking briefly on first, the Washington Gas Lights Pipe Replacement Program, and second, OPC's petition to investigate WGL's infrastructure and where we are in the course of those actions. A general overview of Project Pipes, or now, well, hitherto called Pipes, it started in 2014. It was approved primarily to replace aging, leak-prone pipe infrastructure that had the highest risk and the highest risk of failure and highest leak rates. Project Pipes was approved as a supplement to the utility's normal leak management operations. Over the course of the past 10 years, we're at a point now where on February 23 of this year, the Public Service Commission had extended Pipes 2 for 1 year at a cost of $50 million, meaning that Pipes 2 will run its course and come to an end in the February of next year. The rationale for that is, according to the Commission's order, that there is a genuine public interest in accelerating replacement of gas pipelines and guarding against hazardous leaks or failure of pipelines. On June 12, the Commission dismissed WGL's Pipes 3 application and directed Washington Gas to submit a new plan. Now, between 2014 and 2024, a number of problems were recurring. First, WGL failed to replace the projected amount of problem pipes from inception of the project until today. There were continuing cost overruns due to unapproved projects or technology at different times. There was an order that required WGL to meet certain leak reduction requirements, and for the first 2 years after that order was issued, the utility did not meet those requirements. The details of the problems that OPC identified with Project Pipes is contained in our June 23, 2023 filing in FC 1175. Also in the intervening period between 2014 and 2024, the Office of People's Counsel filed 3 petitions asking the Commission to begin an investigation of WGL's infrastructure. First petition was April 2021. The following year, we filed another one in April 2022. And most recently, in February of this year, we filed a third petition asking the Commission to begin investigation of the state of the utilities pipelines and their infrastructure generally. The first 2 petitions were denied by the Public Service Commission, and on June 12th of this year, the Commission issued order number 22003, in which it dismissed WGL's Pipes 3 application that I mentioned earlier on, opened 2 new cases, FC 1178, which addresses primarily leak reduction, and FC 1179, which addresses pipe replacement. The Commission considered it necessary to bifurcate those 2 issues, and I will be speaking tonight primarily on, well, for the few slides remaining, FC 1179, the pipe replacement program. Now, on June 12, when the Commission issued this order, it directed WGL to submit a restructured pipes plan. Within 45 days of that order, we considered, several stakeholders being the we, that to avoid a regurgitation of old Project Pipes plans, that the Commission extend the time that the utility would need to confer with stakeholders and hopefully incorporate ideas and requirements that are contained in that order in the new plan. The next steps are that on Friday, September 27th, Washington Gas Light should file its proposed pipe replacement plan with the commission. Under FC 1178, which addresses leak reduction in more detail, there are ongoing technical conferences, the first or the most recent of which was held on September 20th or so. And until those, or when those commission ordered tech conferences are concluded, the expectation is that there will be a joint report of all stakeholders, including the utility, and we'll know what the next steps are as far as what the Office of People's Counsel will be advocating for in detail. Generally, however, we are advocating that the laws that have been enacted in the District of Columbia, particularly those around the proliferation of fossil-free or decarbonized energy, that the Public Service Commission will advance those laws and the policies that are attached to them. Now, when the pipe replacement plan is filed on Friday, there will be several issues, we imagine, but the key ones, or some of the ones that are highlighted here rather, are to pay close attention to whether the plan, which is supposed to now be a strategic pipe replacement plan, whether it will in fact address high-risk segments of aging, leak-prone mains and services pipes. There will need to be keen focus on whether the program, the proposal, will result in a reduction of grade 1 and 2 leaks. There's also got to be a close oversight on whether the plan that will be proposed will lend itself to greater cost effectiveness, and finally, whether decommissioning pipes will be incorporated in the proposed plan, as the commission had directed that the utility should pay attention to these things. These are the steps that we anticipate, amongst others, would be key to focus on after the September 27th filing. We encourage that every member of the public in the District of Columbia participate by continuing to write to the commission, because those each letter is important, each email is effective, and so we urge that there's continued participation in the process. To contact us if you have further questions relating to pipe replacement. That's my email address on the bottom of the screen, and the Director of Litigation is Lawrence Daniels, who is also listed up there. And with that, I will turn it over to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do you mind stopping your share for me? Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Palmer, then Gilligan, then Yates.
Thank you, Chair Brooks, and I want to again thank our presenters, Cheryl and Ade, for being here, particularly late this evening. This was very informative, and we had interest in this presentation because residents have raised concerns and questions about project pipes, and wanted to know a little bit more about what the issues were and what the decisions were that were impacting them. And my question is, there is advocacy campaign around stopping project pipes, and I'm wondering if the Office of People's Counsel, as I understand it, the end goal is to improve the oversight and functioning of the project, not to stop it necessarily, but I want to confirm that and maybe ask how it interacts or compares to the advocacy campaigns around project pipes.
Office of People's Counsel has consistently advocated for safe and reliable energy within the ambits of the laws in DC. The Public Service Commission has reiterated most recently in June of this year that there is an overriding, not necessarily that they use the word overriding, but that there is a significant public interest in ensuring that the distribution system, the pipes in the system, are still safe for as long as they're operating, because the PSC has reiterated its commitment to safety. The PSC has till date approved some form of pipe replacement. At the moment, we are expecting that the plan to be filed this week will comply with the PS's directives to align with DC and federal climate goals, and also to consider, I mean, for example, one very clear requirement in the order, I believe that's paragraph 52 sub L, is that the pipes to be replaced under the strategic plan replacement program should not be pipes that could be decommissioned within the next 10 years.
All right, Commissioner Gilligan.
Yeah, Echo, thanks for the presentation this evening. If I was hoping you can elaborate on just one point in your presentation on cost overruns for unapproved projects or work. I'm just on two levels. I'm concerned about that. One is that they are conducting unapproved work or unauthorized work, and then if that is done, then why would it result in a cost overrun if it's not authorized or out of scope? I'm just curious about that and what sort of corrections are going to be in place to make sure that doesn't reoccur.
Thank you for the question. When the commission approves a tranche of projects, the utility goes out with that approval and attempts to do what it has been asked to do. There are audits of each tranche of projects. So pipes 1, there was an audit for that. Pipes 2, there was an audit for that. When the audit takes place, it could become apparent, as it has happened over the past few years, that, for example, instead of doing X using A, B, and C, the utility attempted to do X using A, B, G, and F. Because that's not what was approved on the front end, the cost overruns and the unapproved projects, recovery for those projects are usually disallowed from rate base. To put that in simple terms, the Office of People's Counsel would advocate that if $5 million was spent outside or above what was approved, or for what was not approved, then the ratepayers should not be on the hook to pay that $5 million. So it should not go into rate base. That's how we argue around that.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. And is that what you're seeing? Are you seeing that we're not seeing that rate increase for those types of activities, or are you just advocating against it and we are seeing rate increases tied to those sort of overruns and out of scope work?
In the last rate case, which concluded earlier this year, there was a disallowance of costs, meaning okay, you that.
I understand. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I wanted to ask what may be an overly simple question for this discussion. You talked about the prioritizing of and reduction of type 1 and type 2 gas leaks. What are those types of leaks that are being prioritized by this work, and what are the ones that are not prioritized by this sort of project work? When we talk about the reduction, I mean, in my book, I'm not, I don't know anything about the industry, but I would just say all gas leaks bad. But, clearly there are different types that are higher priority than others. Is there maybe a basic explanation you can give as to why you prioritize certain kinds over others?
Sure thing. The prioritization by the Public Service Commission is informed by federal regulation. PHMSA, that's an agency within the US DOT. PHMSA defines what a grade 1 leak is. It's considered the most hazardous type of gas leak. PHMSA defines what a grade 2 leak is. PHMSA also defines what a grade 3 leak is. And PHMSA has regulations that every utility in the country is supposed to comply with, including those in DC. Prioritizing grade 1 and 2 leaks is to align with PHMSA's regulations and federal oversight of pipeline infrastructure. And yes, we do agree that all leaks are bad, but those two are the most inimical to human existence, I would say, sort of.
All right, I don't see any other questions. Thank you for your presentation and thank you for staying a little later than you anticipated.
Thank you for having us. It's been an honor, and hope to be there to give a presentation again in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. All right, we will move to item 7 on the agenda, the consent calendar. Each of these resolutions have been posted on our website. There is no discussion around consent calendar items. Resolution 4B 240901, recommending the removal of rush hour no parking restrictions on the 400 and 500 block of Cedar Street Northwest. Commissioner Yates, Brooks, Palmer, Smith. Resolution 4B 240902, requesting comprehensive street redesign for the 200 and 300 blocks of Vine Street Northwest. Commissioners Yates, Brooks, Palmer, and Smith. Resolution 4B 240903, reiterating requests for beautification and art along Aspen Street Northwest, the underpass of the Metropolitan Subdivision as a part of the construction of the Metro Branch Trail. Commissioner Yates, Brooks, Palmer, and Smith. There's a letter detailing pedestrian access and pedestrian safety challenges and requests for improvement at Safeway, which is 6500 Piney Branch Road Northwest. Commissioner Palmer, Yates, Brooks, and Smith. Resolution 4B 240904, calling for the Office of Tax and Revenue to advocate for statutory changes to allow for a spin down process for the adjusted gross income of property owners over 65 and those with disabilities. Commissioner Johnson. Is there a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented?
I make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe that's every hand. Just to be sure, any opposition? Yes, that was everyone. Commissioner Yates, your hand I did not see.
My hand did go up, Chair
Okay.
Brooks. I am
Thank
in
you.
favor of,
All right.
as I've authored a few. Thank
Yes.
you.
All right, thank you. So that's everyone. We'll move to item number 8, which is a presentation from Alexander Wilson of Sullivan and Barrows, application to Board of Zoning Adjustment for special exception to construct a child development center at 245 Peabody Street Northwest, which is BZA case number 21101. It's a 10-minute presentation and 10-minute discussion.
Hi, can you all hear me?
We can.
Hi, I'm also here with Nicole White, who's our traffic expert, and then Marilyn Medrano and Christina Encinas, who are the owners, as well as Dave Bloom from who is our project architect. If you could at least promote Nicole, I think she's going to be screen sharing for me. Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Alex, I didn't get the other name of the owner. Marilyn Monroe.
Christina.
Christina. Okay, thank you.
I believe she should. Yeah, she should be on. I don't know if it was just Marilyn tonight.
I don't see anyone named Christina in the.
Yeah, if she wants to raise her hand, I'll promote her.
Okay, and we can go ahead and get started. I know we're running late. Nicole, would you mind sharing when you have a chance? And I'm just gonna get started talking.
Yeah, I am disabled from sharing and ask that I be given permission, please.
If you're a presenter, which means you're on this panel, you have those rights.
Okay, now I do. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm the land use and zoning attorney from Sullivan and Barrows. So we've obviously heard a lot about the two resolutions, the community concerns, and I understand the primary concerns are related to traffic. But before we get to that, I want to explain sort of what we are seeking, how we've proposed to mitigate concerns, regardless of whichever ANC resolution wins out.
Trying to stop sharing and reshare because I seem to be frozen here.
Yeah, I can't see the screen, but I'll just go ahead and keep talking while we work out the
Okay.
technical difficulties. Happy to do that. So we are seeking a special exception for daycare use, and a special exception is a use that is specifically enumerated and listed in the zoning regulations as deemed appropriate in the zone, subject to, of course, a discretionary approval by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and subject to the conditions listed in the zoning regulation. So I just want to clarify, we're not seeking a use variance, which is a request for use that's deemed inappropriate for the zone or not allowed, and which may only be approved due to extenuating circumstances through a justification by the applicant. So the proposed use, a daycare, also referred to as a child development center or daytime care, is for 82 children. It is allowed via special exception in this zone, subject to the specific requirements and the regulations in U203.1H. What can also happen in a case like this is that the applicant can propose conditions to ensure that the criteria are met and any concerns from the community are mitigated, or we have the ability to address those in the future. And so this case was originally filed in December 2023. We've had multiple community meetings, and through the course of the work with the SMD and neighbors, we've refined these conditions. And so some of the slides we have, or I'll discuss, the requirements for this specific special exception, as well as the mitigating measures we have refined and proposed based on feedback heard from the residents and the SMD. The most recent use of this building was as a church. And so we are requesting approval to serve 82 children. And Ms. Medrano and Ms. Encinas have successfully operated Estrellitas in their original location on Colorado Avenue, and this will be a second location. They actually have a wait list for the first location. In addition to converting the building, they're also proposing a renovation and construction of addition to upgrade the building. These specific renovations are permitted as a matter of right. They're done entirely within the permitted zoning regulation development standards for the building envelope. And so Nicole will be discussing traffic and parking more fully, but we are proposing 5 parking spaces on site. And there are bike parking spaces also proposed for parents and staff, and a designated pickup and drop off area for parents. Nicole, I'm on slide 4 now.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. If you could go, maybe it's the slide before this, I think, or a couple of slides before. Where it lists. Yes, this one. Perfect. Okay, now it's the next. I'm sorry. It's the one with the conditions for under U203.1. This one, yes. So the first requirement will be addressed by Nicole and Ms. White, related to traffic and pickup and drop off. Number 2 is that any off-site play area shall be located so as not to endanger individuals traveling between the play area and the center of facility. This is clearly about the safety of the children, and the children will be walked in small groups, either in the multi-seat strollers, wagons, or walking ropes, or in groups to local parks and outdoor spaces. And this is typical of daycare in the city. And then the third requirement is that the BZA may require special treatment in the way of design, screening of buildings, planting, parking areas, signs, etc. Fencing is being provided around the perimeter of the property, as shown in the latest set of plans uploaded to the record. And then Nicole will talk about signage for the Pudo area. And number 4, yes, this does not apply because there is no child development center within 1,000 feet. Regardless, we propose conditions to address these concerns. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So what conditions will be accepted and how do conditions work? So if this is approved by the board will issue an order, and this order can have conditions of approval that must be met in order for Estrellitas to get their certificate of occupancy. And then some of these conditions must be maintained for the life of the project. And the conditions have to relate to the criteria for approval. And if you could please go to the next slide. Thank you so much. These are 9 conditions proposed. The ninth condition is actually a reference to a long list of traffic-related conditions, but the conditions proposed do not encompass all of the items agreed to the community, only the ones that would be acceptable by the board. But we did submit a community agreement into the record encompassing these BZA conditions, as well as other agreements related to construction and communication for school operations, which we will adhere to as part of the commitment to being a good neighbor. But the specific conditions we're proposing to any order, meaning these will have to be met in order for us to obtain the certificate of occupancy and or have to be met throughout the life of the project if we want to maintain that. And these include number of staff, number of children, hours of operation, trash, outdoor playtime, fencing, and restrictions on alley parking that will be included in the handbook and will result in an expulsion if not adhered to by parents or others dropping off and picking up. And as I mentioned, there is a long list of conditions related to traffic mitigation that will be controlled and monitored by DDOT for the life of the project, which Nicole can go through in more detail. Could you please go to the next slide? And this is just more detail on the handbook condition. And I think these conditions in the community agreement, all of which are in the BZA record and will be thoroughly reviewed by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, line up with some of the concerns listed in the original resolution, if that does allay any concerns. And again, we'll have to meet these conditions to operate. And this is just a closer look at how parents will be and students will be terminated if they do not adhere to the strict drop off and pickup policy, which prohibits drop off and pickup in the alley. And with that, I will turn it over to Marilyn Medrano and Christina, if she's on, just to briefly introduce themselves before we turn it over to Ms. White for the traffic presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us at this meeting and allow us to have this presentation. I believe that Miss Christina is waiting to be admitted at the meeting. She has her hands raised. I don't know if you can allow her. Well, everybody, my name is Marilyn Medrano. I'm the founder of Estrellitas Montessori School. Our first location is on Colorado Avenue, as Ms. Alex and Nicole knows. We are working on trying to extend our program since we have a long waiting list and there is a lot of need for children a young age, 0 to 3. And our goal is to promote a space where we can have the children with indoor and outdoor space with a lot of natural light for them to be during the day. So in other words, our goal is to have a space that bring a quality care for the children while they are at school. And Miss Christina, I don't know if she's allowed to talk and introduce or share something. Miss Christina, you there? No. Okay.
Sorry, I did not see anyone named Christina in the
Christina
chat.
Encinas. Maria, Christina
Sorry,
Encinas.
Maria. I said Christina, but I meant Maria. I did not see Maria
There's
in the
someone
list of names.
just called iPhone who's raising
Okay,
their.
Yes,
I think
yes, that's
okay.
her.
So as I
I'll
mentioned
promote.
at the top of the meeting, we don't elevate people who are not named.
Oh, okay. So, well, I believe she can introduce herself later while she's fixing that. I will pass it on to Miss Nicole. Thank
I'm
you.
here.
Oh, there she is. Okay, Miss Christina, do you want to introduce yourself and say
Yes.
something?
Yes. Hi, my name is Cristina Encinas. I've been in education for more than 20 years in the District of Columbia. I This is my passion, Montessori bilingual education. I've been working with Miss Marilyn Medrano for over 6 years in the development and quality Montessori bilingual education. We have a waiting list, and our motivation is to open more slots for our waiting list that we have at Colorado Avenue and provide a quality education for what we know now. It's a very important part of the development of the human being is 0 to 3. So this is our motivation, hopefully, to open more slots and provide quality education for young children. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I'll start with the transportation overview. Good evening, all. My name is Nicole White. I'm a principal with Symetra Design. In accordance with DDOT's Comprehensive Transportation Review Guidelines, our firm prepared a transportation study. Our initial study was submitted in June. It was scoped with DDOT, including the assumptions, the trip generation, and the methodology that was used. Following the submittal of our June transportation statement, we met with the community. We heard some really good feedback. And so we went back out and did some additional data collection in September when school reopened, and have since revised and updated our transportation statement, which was submitted to DDOT and also to Commissioner Cohen on September 19th. Okay, as noted earlier, there are 5 parking spaces proposed for the site. The site will meet the zoning requirements for parking. The parking is accessed via the public alley and will be used exclusively by staff. Pickup and drop-off operations for students by parents will occur exclusively on Peabody Street. And you can see the pedestrian access in the blue with the blue arrow also from Peabody Street. In addition to parking being located and accessed from the public alley, trash removal will also occur from the public alley. Trash is expected to occur once or twice a week, and the trash will be rolled out the dumpster to the public alley. So I will focus my presentation this evening on the primary community concerns that we heard during the July meeting, and thanks to Commissioner Cohen for really outlining what we understood to be the 3 big community comments that we heard during that meeting. First was about activity in the alley. There was concern about vehicles parking in the alley, standing and idling and blocking neighbors who use the alley to access their driveways. The second concern that we heard was about stacking on Peabody Street, in particular associated with the Capital City Public Charter School. We heard some of those comments earlier this evening from some of the neighbors on Peabody, so we'll talk about that. And then finally, we did some observations as part of our initial transportation study, and we were informed that we did them during a time when the Capital City Public Charter School had early dismissal on a Wednesday. So we went out in September when school reopened and did some additional observations on a Tuesday. So let's go through first in regards to the alley. We heard from Ms. Alex this evening about the parent handbook that would dictate policies about how pickup and drop off would occur and how parents would be restricted from using the alley for pickup and drop off. So in addition to the policies that are set forth, we've also determined, based on all of our observations in the study, that there is adequate space on Peabody such that there is not a need to utilize the alley. So we'll go through that with the additional topics. In terms of the Peabody Street stacking, what happens associated with the Capital City Public Charter School, we were able to receive some data from Marilyn and Christina during a typical week in May from their other site on Colorado Avenue. And so we were able to use that to project what we can expect for the Peabody location. And also we did some observations of parking dwell time at the Colorado Avenue observation, so I'll share those as well. So this first chart is showing the data that we received on 4 different days in the first week in May, May 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And we tracked that data in 15-minute increments from 7 a.m. until 9:45 a.m. So the arrival of parents is really dispersed over a 90-minute period, unlike a typical public school, a K through 12 school that has a discrete arrival time. So it's really dispersed, and you can see what the activity is over each of the 15-minute periods. The peak arrival was 8:15 to 9:15 for the Colorado Avenue location. Likewise, during the afternoon pickup time, we also looked at the sign-in, sign-out sheets for parents at the Colorado Avenue location. And so from 2 p.m. until about 5:45 p.m., you can see how the activity is dispersed. Not a lot of activity happening from 2 p.m. to 4:30. And then there's an increase in activity such that the peak is 4:45 to 5:45 for parents. So what I showed you was the Colorado Avenue location. There would be fewer students at the Peabody location, so 150 students at Colorado versus 82 at Peabody. And so we scaled down the number of people accordingly because of the reduction in students. So you'll see on the left, the curve showing the blue line, which is for Colorado Avenue. And then the lower curve shows what is expected with 82 students at the Peabody location. And so that's what happens during the morning. The curve on the right is showing the same thing, the blue line for Colorado, and a reduction in what we could expect in terms of activity, but it mirrors what happens at the Colorado site, and that happens during the afternoon. So what we have at this point are person trips, but we observed, and we know from a lot of different surveys that were conducted that there's also activity associated with pedestrians and with people taking bikes to drop off their children. And so we reduced the number of person trips by what we understand the vehicle mode split to be. And then in some cases, there are multiple children in one vehicle. So we're able to reduce the person trips to vehicle trips. So you'll see the red curve down to the green, and that's what we can expect for vehicle trips. What's interesting about this data, next slide, is we're showing the Capital City Public Charter School arrival time and the dismissal time. So the arrival time on the curve to the left, and you can see what happens around 8:30 a.m. And during that time, we'd expect about 12 vehicles that would arrive for the daycare center. During the afternoon dismissal, when conditions are happening at the Capital City Public Charter School, you'll see very low activity associated with the daycare. And that's because the daycare happens much later. So we're talking about, I think this is 1 to 3 vehicles that would happen at the time during the Capital City Public Charter School dismissal. One of the other observations that we did at the Colorado Avenue location on September 11th, from 8:15 to 9:15 and 4:45 to 5:45, was we tracked every vehicle that came to the site, whether they parked in the lot or on the street. We wrote down the arrival time and the departure time of every vehicle. And so from this in and out data, we were able to determine the minimum time that someone spent to pick up their child, the maximum time, the average time, and a number of other statistics. In the morning, the average time it took for a parent to drop off their child was 4.3 minutes. It took longer in the afternoon during the pickup time between 4:45 and 5:45, and that average was 11.1 minutes. So from all of the data that we tracked, the in and out time for every vehicle, we were able to also determine the accumulation of vehicles at any one time. So this is like a snapshot in time. Like every 5 minutes, how many cars can you expect to be parked on the street? And what we did, again, we had Colorado data. We projected it down from 150 students to 82 students. And what you see is the accumulation of vehicles for the Peabody location. So the bar graph on the left is showing really during the morning, no more than about 3 vehicles at any 1 minute in time can we expect to be parked. During the afternoon, when that dwell time is a little longer at about 14 minutes, we can expect up to 11 vehicles that would be parked at any one time. So in addition to collecting data at the Colorado Avenue location, we also made the additional observations on Peabody Street. We did this on a Tuesday when we know there's typical dismissal for the Capital City Public Charter School. We did 3 study periods. We did 8:15 and 9:15 to coincide with the peak hour for the daycare. We did, and this also overlaps with the arrival time for the Capital City Public Charter School. We looked at 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., which is the dismissal time and peak for the Capital City Public Charter School, and then 4:45 to 5:45, which is the peak for the daycare center. So our observations, they extended beyond, you'll see the map here, they extended beyond the survey area, but we really are focusing our results in the table on the survey area because this is the area that is closest to the daycare center here on Peabody. You can see the location here with the red star. And so in this area, there's about 27 total spaces. And so we counted the number of vacant spaces during each of the study periods. And so during the morning time, there were 20 available parking spaces in that area. During the Capital City Public Charter School dismissal time, there were 16 spaces. And then later in the day after the activity associated with Capital City Public Charter School was over, there were about 25 spaces. So earlier in the presentation, we talked about 5 parking spaces being available per zoning requirement for staff, but we do expect, based on some of the mode split data, how the staff are expected to arrive to work, that there could be an overflow of up to 9 parking spaces on the street. So what would happen if we have the 9 parking spaces on the street, along with the pickup and drop off activity associated with parents that we went through on the previous slides? Well, during the morning, we'd have about 3 for a total of 12 parked vehicles. During that Capital City Public Charter School dismissal time, there's only about 1 car we can expect. And so that would mean a total of 10 parking vehicles associated with the daycare. And then during 4:45 to 5:45, there would be about 11. So that's 20. So in each of our study periods, we are below the available parking spaces from the survey that we did in September. By the way, the survey results are also consistent with what we collected in the spring as part of that June transportation statement. So we have a number of different survey periods telling us the same information. So as part of our coordination with DDOT, DDOT has recommended 60 feet in front of the daycare center to be changed and signed and allocated for the use of pickup drop-off activity. So this would accommodate about 3 vehicles. And then there are other areas, as I identified on the previous slide, where some additional parking could occur for the pickup and drop-off activity. But this is just an area that DDOT has recommended should be signed. So at this time, I'll turn it over. Is Dave Bloom on and able to talk about the architecture?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Nicole. My name is Dave Bloom. I'm with District Architecture, and I will very quickly go over to the design. So this first slide is just the vicinity map. You see the surrounding area and the lot that the school will occupy. Next slide, please. Here you see a split between the existing site plan at the bottom of the page showing the church structure and the proposed site plan at the upper part of the page. The darker gray area is the outline of the existing building, and the lighter gray areas are the additions. So we're proposing a rear addition, a side addition, and then replacing the roof structure with the second floor addition. You can also see the 5 parking spaces along the alley, sort of at the corner where the 2 alleys meet, as well as a play area in the towards the back of the building in the rear yard. Next slide, please. So this is a 2-story building with a cellar. This is the cellar level that has 2 classrooms and some support space. Next slide. The main level, which is the first floor, has 3 classrooms, bathrooms, and entry via steps and via some ramps that are required. Next slide. and the upper floor, second floor has classroom, office, multi-purpose space, and some bathrooms as well. Next slide. Here you can see the front and rear elevations. So the front elevations, for context, I've drawn in the outline of the existing building, which you can see those angled red dashed lines. So we're keeping the box of the first floor of the existing building, but taking off the roof. The second floor is at its peak, maybe 2.5, 3 feet taller than the peak of the existing building. I'd also like to point out that the building itself is significantly smaller than the by right development standards that would be allowed. And you can see the side yard setbacks I've indicated and the maximum height of the building in the red dashed lines as well. So we're significantly within the box that's allowed. Next slide. Here you see the side elevations. The one at the bottom is the alley elevation, and the one at the top is opposite the alley, the elevation between our lot and the neighbor's lot. Next slide. I think there's one more. Yep. So a couple preliminary renderings to show what the building will look like from the front. I think that was the last one. Thank you.
All right. I think, so I'm assuming you're at the end of the presentation. Can you take down the share so I can see who has their hands raised? This, yeah, thank you. All right, I'll start with Commissioner Palmer.
Yeah, I was wondering if there could be a little bit of explanation about any efforts taken to encourage non-car travel to the facility, whether that's bike infrastructure or Metro cards or something else, just what your efforts have been there.
Yeah, so we have coordinated with DDOT, a transportation demand management plan, and have commitments that is, they are outlined in the transportation statement, but they include measures to encourage alternative modes of transportation to the site. In addition, there are bicycle parking spaces that are planned, and we coordinated that with DDOT as well, so that would not interfere with any of the alley operations, and there would be safe access for bikes to get to the site. So that is included as well.
And that should be on exhibit 20 in exhibit 28 in the record, just for anyone who wants to take a look in more detail.
Commissioner Gilligan.
Similar type of question on mode of transport and the vehicle split between vehicles and bicycles. I wonder if in the analysis you took into account the extension of the MBT, the Metropolitan Branch Trail, that's just nearby at the end of Peabody and Blair, that will continue to get extended. I wonder if the number of amount of bicycle traffic is underestimated, and if you actually need additional bike parking storage in the front of the building than what's already planned.
So as I noted earlier, we based the transportation mode split initially on the Colorado Avenue location with some adjustments. We looked at some census data and availability. It was a lot of back and forth with DDOT on the mode split and there's a slightly different mode split for students versus staff, but certainly the goal would be to have as much bicycle access as possible, and the bicycle parking does meet the zoning requirement in this case.
Thank you.
You are.
Is Commissioner Johnson there? I said she could have the opportunity to speak. I don't know if she's off camera or stepped away. Okay, when she gets back, I'll afford her this opportunity. I actually have several questions. I want to start with, how was this project negotiated with the residents so that you guys could come to a solution that was amenable. It feels like both the center and the school and the residents are very far apart on, their wishes and desires for this location. That's my first question.
So the primary concerns have been related to traffic, so I'll defer that portion in terms of the traffic and what we've done to address
I
concerns.
think that sort of boils it down and makes it a little too simple, because the reason there will be more traffic is because there will be 82 students. Has there been any consideration given to making it 60 students, 75 students, any other number than 82?
We did discuss that initially, or I, discussed that initially with the clients, and it won't work in this space to have fewer than 82 students.
The current,
And I'll also, I guess I'll also note the zoning regulations don't specify a certain number. And this is not.
That wasn't my question. I understand it's by right. I don't know that the residents understand that, but I understand that it's by right. I understand that you don't have to do that, but that wasn't the question. Actually. Commissioner Smith, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just kind of want to piggyback off Commissioner Brooks. Do we know where, I guess, the consumers are coming from? You have 82. This center has 82 customers, if you will. Are they customers within the neighborhood? Or are they coming from outside the neighborhood? Do we have a stats on that? Because that could cut down. We're talking about traffic here. People are walking their kids over to the center. Then maybe they can stamp down on a lot of the traffic. So can we pinpoint where the consumers are coming from?
Marilyn, I don't know if you want to take a stab at that, but I'll start by saying I would imagine, Marilyn, did you want to go first, or do you want me to chime in?
I want to answer, I try to answer both questions. The first one that Ms. Allison asked, I think that the point is, when we first purchased the building, it was advertised as a childcare center in a church with a CO of 144 children. People in the building at the same time. We look at the numbers and we look at the building itself, and we want to make, like I said, a space for children to have a quality time while they are under our care. So for the reason, we come to that number because it will make sense to have a childcare there to cover all the cost and the staff and all the expenses that the building will incur. We can go higher because we are proposing to have an indoor multipurpose room for the children, but we don't want to do that. Recently, we just want to have a space for that children that makes sense to have a childcare center at that area. I don't know if that answered the first question. And regarding the second question about families, if they're gonna come from the neighborhood or not, currently we have families that are on our waiting list on Colorado Avenue. So that's one of the reasons that we were focusing on that area. So we do have families that travel from, and they live in the neighborhood across the street from where we're gonna be. They travel all the way to Colorado Avenue to drop their children at this moment. So we do have a couple families and siblings waiting for a flat on Colorado Avenue, and will be much easier just to have it close to their home. So that way they walk and they don't need to drive to drop their children. I hope that helps.
It does. Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, the last time we met, you had mentioned something about the current space that you're using in Tacoma Park, Maryland, like that space being shut down and this taking over for that. Is that still the case?
The spaces, the second location that we have in Tacoma Park, DC is very diverse. We have families from Silver Spring, we have families from Tacoma Park, Maryland, and Tacoma Park, DC. So on that area, we have families that recently moved from DC to Tacoma, so we're able to keep the connection with them. And some of them work on DC and live on Maryland, like Silver Spring. So those families is convenient for them. When we did our study in order to have a second location, that's what we were focused on. However, the families that live close to Tacoma, Maryland, but live on DC and DC side, they travel to Tacoma because it's closer. However, also will be very beneficial for them if we are able to offer the service on this side of the line on DC. So we do have families mixed on our Tacoma location from DC and Maryland around the neighborhood.
But I guess my point is, like, I think it's safe to say that most likely, well, I guess you didn't really say what the split is in terms of that Tacoma Park, Maryland location, but I would assume that folks who are living in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and would be coming to this location, most of them would be driving, or maybe not.
To be honest, on Tacoma, mostly families walk because it's a huge. I don't know if you've been to this side of Tacoma Park. I live close to the school, so I know that the families walk and bike. And their families, like I'm saying, that come from Silver Spring, for example, they drive. But mostly the families at school, they walk. So that being said, if they're gonna go to Peabody, when we open, those children are gonna be in school already. So we're focusing now on the new customers that we want to serve the community at this point. In Tacoma location, we don't know what's gonna happen, if they're gonna renew or not, or we're looking into another side because the license is different in the families sometimes looking for a scholarship or some programs is different and we cannot accept them on DC. So that's why I was trying to explain that mostly family that live on DC, Tacoma, are looking something on DC instead of going to Maryland.
Let me ask two more questions. These are more practical questions, sort of yes or no things, to try to mitigate some of the concerns. Can you have someone, a staff person that checks the alley on a regular basis, like steps out and just makes sure that no one's idling?
At our current location on DC, we have assigned 2 people at the doors that are able to call by the radio and let the teachers know that the child arrived and make sure that the traffic's flow. So we have on each door staff. So that's the plan for this location. And I'm gonna emphasize that at the beginning, making sure that we follow the rules because we don't wanna cause an inconvenience on this community. We wanna work with them. We wanna be able to work together in order to make the neighborhood and the community safe while the children are in our care also.
To that end, would you be willing to provide a phone number so that if residents have concerns in real time, they could reach just, not just the main phone number, but they know that they're going to reach ownership to have issues addressed?
The best number to call, to be honest, is the main number because we're able to track the people. Like if you call,
that's a bad answer, and I'll tell you why. Because I think when you dial the main number, you get someone who works in an office and isn't going to understand that 6 months ago there was an ANC meeting and promises were made, or that there's a BZA agreement and promises were made, whereas you all will. And I think there needs to be a point of contact that residents know that they can reach out to mitigate concerns. But if that's not what you're willing to do, I can't make you do that, but I am telling you that that is the approach.
It's in the proposal is there. We offer our personal contact information. What I said is that the best way to do is the main number, but you have the option. We provide on our case the contact information for Miss Christina or I. We're able to solve this and keep on track what's going on.
Okay. My last question, Commissioner Cohen, is for you. Have you explained to the residents that what a by right property means with regard to this daycare? Does everyone on this call understand what the special exception is actually asking for? And that's what the scope of the resolution can address?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, certainly on the the design side. We had a long conversation about by right and what that means. I don't think we got into it on the. I mean, we certainly had multiple long conversations about the traffic issues, and really, I mean, at the end of the day, right? This is a giant question mark from my perspective, right? Because it's like the size of the number of students drives whether and how those students are getting and staff is getting to and from this location drives whether that's going to create this objectionable traffic condition or not. And ultimately, that I don't think that all we can rely on is Nicole's numbers and her calculations, which like that's great, but at the end of the day, it's not reality. It's not real life. And so, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, we had lengthy conversations about what by right means and what that's why there is this supportive resolution presented. It's yeah. I can get into that when we talk about the resolution, but yes.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question for this presentation as it relates to this presentation?
Miss Allison, I want to clarify something. When I told you about the main number, I was talking about the main number for that location, for that specific location, because we also have Colorado Avenue. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is, so it looks like residents have their hands raised, and I'm willing to allow one or two people to speak, but we're not going to go back through everything that we've already said. I understand how residents feel. It is already nearly 10 p.m. and we just can't do that twice. So I'm advising you of that now before we allow the questions. So I'll start with Ms. Anderson because I saw her hand first, and then we can go to Mr. Berry.
Thank you for the presentation. Is it safe to say that the traffic statement did not take into consideration the fact that you'll have 16 infants, 38, 18 to 24 months old, and 30, let's see, and I think you're gonna, I'm not sure how many 30 to 50 months old. That's my one question. And are you using the alley at your Colorado site now, if you have one? And isn't it true that you should not design something that would create an objectionable traffic condition or unsafe condition for picking up and dropping off persons in attendance or for the residents
Ms.
of our
Anderson?
neighborhood?
Ms. Anderson, I think
yes.
I think we need to stop and let them answer the first couple of questions because you're adding on so many bits that they won't.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So the first question, let's one at a time.
Did you take into consideration
all those
the infants who
yeah,
are in the arm and won't be biking to your facility?
So we observed the Colorado Avenue location, which is assumed to have a similar makeup of ages 3 months to 5 years. And so in that case, yes, there are some that can ride on the bike, and the babies, we assume that they wouldn't ride on the bike, but we are mirroring that off of the Colorado Avenue location, which also is consistent with trip rates that we calculated from the Institute of Transportation Engineers for that land use.
Okay, now go to part two of your question. There will
Part
be
two.
no, you're not following up on every answer though. You asked the second question.
Is there an alley at the Colorado location? And are you using that alley?
So people use the parking at the Colorado Avenue location, and also they park, there's some pickup drop-off activity on Colorado Avenue.
So
and
to
I think
park, do they
some
have to
on
access
14th
the alley
Street.
to park? I'm not familiar with Colorado Avenue.
No, it's sort of it's a separate off-street parking.
Okay, so I don't understand the answer then to her question. Do you?
There's,
use the bottom
I don't understand quite either, because there's not that alley, it's a parking lot.
Off-street parking?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So unless she's considering that connection from Colorado to 14th Street, which is the parking lot, as an alley, then I'm not clear on what alley is being
Okay.
referenced.
Ms. Anderson, can you clarify that, or does that answer your
Yes.
question?
Well, I want to move to something else. And this is my last piece. That
Okay.
because this is unclear and I have just received the information of this traffic statement, I think you should cancel or table your resolution until the residents of Peabody Street get a full understanding of what these people are going to do.
So if I may please respond to that. So our transportation statement was submitted in June, and we presented the results of the June transportation statement in July. And based on some of the comments that we received, we wanted to respond to the comments, and we did some additional data collection. And so what we collected in September was included in the most recent transportation statement, which is completely consistent with the June. So we're just basically validating what we had already presented in June with the additional information. So there are no new results. It's just data that's confirming what was already stated.
If it's data that was, well, then why did you have to do additional work if it's just data that you're putting out? We need data in order to understand what's going to happen in our neighborhood. I have a husband who has
Ms.
had.
Anderson?
Yes.
You can't, unfortunately, I can't have you ask.
Okay, no
You can't go
problem.
into a conversation with a dialogue. I have
No,
to be able
no
to accommodate
problem.
your
I'm
people.
just trying to express the fact that I think you guys are pushing a resolution where the residents don't have a full understanding of this traffic study, and we have not studied it.
I think that was a decision made by Commissioner Cohen to bring this to this meeting. That's how we got here. That's not us, that's a Commissioner Cohen. So if he wants to have a resolution out of this outcome, out of this meeting, that's his choice. So that's I'll stop there. Can we go to the next resident? Mr. Berry?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So Mrs. Wilson, you said in your presentation that the plan is the plan for the school with the concerns of the residents included in there and evaluated. Would you, and this is open to all of you, would you support the original resolution that Commissioner Cohen put forward that includes the approval? He's not denying it, but includes the concerns of the residents in the resolution, and not the second resolution that strips all of our concerns out as a goodwill gesture to present that to the BZA.
I don't want to create any conflict within the ANC, but I reviewed the resolution and I think it's reasonable. So it largely reflects what we're proposing in our conditions. I think the only item I had a little bit of concern about was the suggestion that this become an in-home daycare instead, just because it's a little confusing. It's a church, and then that would require a whole other host of things to occur. But yeah, the conditions that were in there and the discussions reflect that, I guess, what we're proposing in our conditions.
Mr. Berry, I'd like to follow up for a second.
Sure.
The issue isn't the concerns of the resident, quite honestly. The issue is that there are some inaccuracies in the resolution that make it difficult to vote for. For example, it's not an in-home daycare, right? For example, there isn't another child care development center within X number of feet, 1,000 feet, as was suggested by other residents in other places in the conversation. So, and commissions, because only the commission has great weight, doesn't approve or deny. BZA does.
Correct.
right? And some of this isn't necessarily for you specifically, but for everyone else to hear as well. So if we want to take the time to take this offline and clean up one resolution that everyone can vote on, I would, as an individual commissioner, have no issue with that. But that wasn't a suggestion made by Commissioner Cohen. So I won't vote on something individually, right? Because everybody's going to do what they think is best. But I can't vote for something that has inaccuracies in it.
I mean, I would say
And
that
that's
the
why,
second
because
one
I want to clarify why we felt we needed to have a second resolution. That's all I want to do personally, right? Because I don't want to be berated for, not by you. I didn't, that didn't come out properly. I'm sorry. I don't want to be later beat up for the fact that I allowed 2 resolutions on the table, when in fact, there could have been one. We would have preferred that there be one. All of us, even Commissioner Cohen, I think, would agree with that. I don't think there's anyone that really would like for this to work out this way. So if there is the willingness for all of us to go back to the drawing board and come back in October, I'm all for that. But that's not where we are. And Commissioner Cohen, when is the BZA hearing?
It's October 2nd.
It's October 2nd.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is no other meeting. There's no other opportunity to go back to the drawing board. And so that then means either another delay, which I don't think anybody wants and would agree to, or it means we have to vote for today. Okay. Let's keep going. Mr. Berry, I'm sorry, did you have a response?
No.
Okay.
No, I appreciate Ms. Wilson's answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's keep going. There's questions, hands raised from Brenda and Tim Harkin. Hi, Miss Brenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good, and you?
I'm good. I'm good. I have been listening to all of this, and I do live on Peabody Street. There should be no nursery there. I understand that you all done a research in June, and June was when basically the kids was getting out of school for the summer vacation. You done another research the first week of September, around about September the 10th, when not all schools was open. They was open, but not all children was there. I would suggest that you go back and do a research, because I'm in the area daily. And it is very, very hard to even get 2 cars on the street. And with adults riding their bicycles with their kids on the back, it is so dangerous. So are you really talking about here? This is what I'm looking at. Are you talking about taking one lane away and making a bicycle lane there? Because I looked at your back. You don't have a back large enough for kids to play in. And in the alley, kids run off. And I understand you're going to have 2 people at the door. 2 people at the door on their cell phones are talking to each other. Child walk out the door, walk right on out in the street, in the alley. Who's going to be responsible? And I agree with the chairman here that there should be a main number. Now, I mean, there should be a number where parents can call you directly, not a main number, because you don't get anyone on a main number. And I think that this should be tabled, because to my understanding, and as I see it, the commissioners not in the neighborhood is you're not even 50-50 on this. You can't come to a table and agree upon something that 80% of your people disagree with. You got to come to compromise with each other. And let me tell you, 82 kids, no, not right there. I mean, you all, I don't know how many of you say you live in the neighborhood. Do you come there during the peak hour or rush hour and see what's going on? It's bad on the weekend, and there is no schools. It's bad. How many of you on this contract live in the neighborhood? And how many of you go see the neighborhood except in the early part of June and the first part of September, when school is just taken in, when there really is no school, no kids in school? That's not acceptable to me. And I live on Peabody. I mean, stop putting your greed ahead of you and think about our little children. Think about our children. Our children. And like Miss Marilyn said, you know, between DC line and Tacoma line, how many children in DC is going to be in this school? We got to look at this. We're not looking at this clearly, you all. We're talking about babies that cannot protect themselves. Stop using other people's children for your greed. And I'm being honest. And everybody that know me know that I speak honesty. And this is what I see here. I don't see nothing about the children. Stop it. And let's come together as a neighborhood and see, can this work? See, can this work? I see one ANC shaking his head, but that's okay. Because you know what? In the end, it's about your children. It's not about you. You have lived your life. Let the kids live theirs happily. And let the parents bring their kids safely to a place that they know their kids will be watched. Will be watched. Except by two people at a door on a cell phone. And I know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda.
Brooks.
All right, I'm going to hear from Tim Harkin, and it's getting late, so at some point we're going to have to bring this to an end.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out a different perspective. I live in walking distance to this location, and next year I'll be looking at daycare options. So I would definitely welcome another daycare in the area that we could choose from. I think others in that same scenario, if we have a daycare that's in walking distance of the neighborhood, we would not be getting in our cars in the morning to drive to a different neighborhood for daycare. So it would be less cars leaving the neighborhood and being on the road in the cars.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to hear from commissioners. I'm sorry, there's one more resident, and it's not Stephen. It's Stephen's partner, and I don't remember your name. I'm very sorry.
Hi, this is Rachel. Thank you. I'll make this quick. First of all, I appreciate Ms. Wilson's acknowledgement of the original resolution, and I would appreciate that since that is the feeling of the majority of the people in the immediate area, as well as the ANC commissioner, and that she has acknowledged that we could respect that. And then the second thing I wanted to say is I was at that original presentation of the traffic study, and I was at the discussion where we were talking about revision. To be honest, I don't see any substantive revision from the original presentation other than the assurance that no one's going to be using the alley. The 5 parking spots were there originally. The space for the drop off was the same. So I'm not sure how our concerns were actually brought into the revision. And to be honest, I mean, I'm sure that you did do a traffic study, but I can tell you that even now, without another daycare at Capital City drop off and pickup, there is solid parking all the way to the corner. So I guess one of the things I'm concerned about is that your original study is only looking at Peabody, but if you add another whole school of 82 students, it's going to also involve Third and all sorts of areas that are outside of your original study. So that's one concern. And my second concern is having to do with what Ms. Wilson said about when Council Chair Brooks asked whether you had considered our proposal of having a lower number. And you said originally you did, but then you kind of dismissed that. That's our main concern, is not that there is a daycare there, but that the number is not consistent with the neighborhood and the ability to absorb that extra traffic and the extra numbers. And further than, not only did you not consider lowering your number, but what I hear you saying is that you could even go up higher. So what's to stop you once you have the daycare established from increasing your numbers? And that's something that has not been addressed, but which is sort of the elephant in the room. And I think that that is one of the concerns that the residents have and that no one has been speaking about. So,
keep in mind, Rachel, can I interject something?
Sure,
right there?
that's all
Because everyone's pointing to this resolution as if whatever's in it dictates everything else going forward. It doesn't. What's in the BZA ruling designates what happens going forward. And if in fact there's nothing in that ruling about staying at 82 students, then yes, day 2, they could go to 144. Yes, they could do that. And so I think again, and I'm emphasizing this because, people like I heard one of my residents, try to take this back to a conversation about something that happened in March or April, but there has to be an understanding of what we can impact, what we can do. And there's absolutely nothing that any resolution we submit could do about something like that. Because that's up to the BZA.
I do understand, and I understand what the by right issue is, and I understand that they're not applying for a change of use. I guess what I'm concerned of is that there is language in the laws that say that you cannot substantively change the character of the neighborhood or impact the traffic substantively, and that is something that I don't think has adequately been addressed. And my concern is that if, as it was proposed at the beginning, we substitute the revised resolution, which basically sidesteps the concerns of the residents in the immediate area, that is going to sway the board hearing on October 2nd materially. And that is, I think, why you're hearing so much from the neighborhood, because we have looked into this, we have gone to the meetings, we have spoken with the owners. We do appreciate that they are talking with us, but we don't see any substantive changes, and that is why we're frustrated, and really hope that you don't adopt that new resolution and let the board hearing on Tuesday go forward, without you weighing in that way.
Okay, I want to get back. You're welcome. I want to get back to the commissioners. Commissioner Johnson, you're back.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. My daughter needed me. So I first want to say that thank you to everyone who spoke up earlier in the evening regarding this resolution. I want to say that this is not a NIMBY issue. There's no cover up. This was something that was fully vetted by all of myself and my colleagues to propose this new resolution. It's not an alternative. It is a new resolution in support of this Child Development Center. We, in this new resolution, spoke to the fact that we understand the residents' concerns. We have listened to the residents' concerns. They are the same concerns that have been in place with regard to the traffic calming efforts that are presently available and going to be available in the not so near future regarding the school at the 100 block of Peabody Street. I continue to work with our partners with DDOT and with DPW to ensure that those traffic calming efforts are enforced and any new calming methods are implemented as expeditiously as possible. This is going to be an ongoing conversation, but I do also understand the fact that we do need additional childcare resources in the city. And so I would ask my colleagues to please join me in supporting this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I move to the next commissioner, I just want to point out that I did Ms. Wilson a disservice, that they are agreeing to cap at 82, and that will be in the BZA order. So I don't want to be an alarmist. I want to make sure that I state that clearly. So they will not be able to go above 82 without going back to BZA. Okay. Commissioner Gilligan, Yates, and then Palmer.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few comments here. First, I want to recognize that the Capital City Charter School drop-off and pickup is a mess every day in the morning, particularly I pass through on my way to work. But it's important to bear in mind that that charter school is more than an order of magnitude larger than the proposed daycare. And Ms. White's traffic assessment, I think, is quite thorough. I think the insights that it provides, which is evidence-based, using an analog, a real-world analog, should alleviate many of the traffic concerns. I think folks need to take another look at that package, even after this meeting, if it can be provided, and just really dig in to see what Ms. White's done there. I think it's really helpful and informative. The other note I want to have is that this is not a residential property. So no matter what goes into this space, it will result in increased traffic no matter what goes in. So I think since it's been vacant for so long, folks have become accustomed to the lighter traffic there, but that space is always zoned for non-residential use, and it will result in more traffic no matter what goes in there.
Oops, I'm sorry.
And then just based on a couple of the comments that were made, I am actually a parent of a current student in Estrellitas on Colorado. And I just want to convey that a large number of children as young as 6 months commute to the daycare on a bicycle, sometimes more than one child on a bicycle. So I heard a comment that young children don't bike to school. Well, they do, in fact. And the alleyway that is adjacent to the school, I have not seen it blocked one time over in more than 2 years. So just another, my own experience there. So I would not put too much emphasis on those concerns based on my experience at the other Estrellitas school. And the staff that are at the doors at the Colorado location are always incredibly attentive, and they ensure drop off and pickup runs smoothly. That is part of their job, and I see it in practice. And my final thing is just, as again, someone who has a child currently enrolled at Estrellitas, I don't want my vote to come from a biased position. So I'm going to be abstaining from votes tonight on the resolutions. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the applicant for their thorough presentation tonight and all the impassioned words we've heard from various neighbors. I appreciate the dialogue around this. I do want to talk a little bit about what I did earlier, which is the introduction of this second resolution, this clean resolution of support that I believe more accurately reflects what the commission is doing in passing a resolution in support. The resolution in support does incorporate the applicant's conditions, right? So all the information that that we've talked about tonight in terms of restrictions are incorporated in this resolution. I think it is important that we're honest with our constituents. Sometimes these are difficult discussions that we have about the impact on the community of different building choices and things that could be built and things that not. And I think one of the things that this resolution offers is that it's very straight ahead, is that it says it supports this application, it supports the conditions. It does not pretend that somehow a listing of additional concerns changes the core position that is reflected in the conclusion, the resolved paragraph that is the most important part that the BZA pays attention to. So it's very straight ahead. I would say that I know that Commissioner Johnson offered edits to Commissioner Cohen on his resolution. They were rejected. His resolution came to me too late to offer edits. And so I couldn't vote to support it. So left with the choice between voting against additional child care seats in our community and proffering my own resolution. I proffered my own resolution because I strongly believe that we have to have more affordable, high quality childcare seats in our neighborhood. I'm a parent of 3 kids. I've spent time on daycare wait lists. I hear from my neighbors who have been excited. I watched the opening of a new daycare down the street for me and then watched my neighbors enroll in it because they could walk to it rather than commuting via car or via train with their children, where there previously hadn't been an option for them. So that's why I'm supporting my resolution on this and not the second one. But I appreciate the opportunity to explain that briefly.
Okay, Commissioner Palmer.
Thank you. I will echo appreciation for the robust discussion. I too will be supporting the second resolution. And I'd like to echo some comments made by Chair Brooks and Commissioner Yates about how the timing of this matter really forced us into this position. The commission, in my 6 years as commissioner, has never done this. This matter has been on the table for about 10 months. We've received very little information. We've asked questions. I have expressed my concerns and thoughts about this for months and months, and we have heard almost no detail from the commissioner of jurisdiction. And then when we saw the resolution, feedback was rejected, and there wasn't sufficient time to reach consensus and provide our own feedback. So that forced our hands here. This was not a choice that was made lightly, and I just wanted to emphasize that.
All right, thank you. All right. I see no other comments, and I just want to point out that while everyone might not like the process isn't always neat. It isn't always, you know, congenial, I guess, but this is the process. This is where we come to have the conversation. This is where we debate the issues. This is where we see the presentations. So it's actually working the way it's supposed to work. So next on the agenda is Resolution 4B240905, supporting and providing feedback regarding requests for special exception at 245 Peabody Street Northwest, BZA, case number 21101. Commissioner Cohen.
Yeah, so before we get to that, I do want to make a motion to strike the language in this resolution where it says should more closely align with that of a child development home and expanded child development home. I would like to include in there something that says, I would like to insert that that it should say the size and capacity that is more closely aligned with that of a child development home or expanded child development home would mitigate or would more likely mitigate potential objectionable traffic conditions.
You just confused me. Can you say it one more time? You're
Sure.
going to strike, you're going to amend the resolution as presented. You're making
Correct.
a motion to amend the resolution as presented, and that amendment to the resolution is?
Correct. So I will read the amended language as opposed to reading the old language. Neighbors have expressed concern that given the property's location within and proximity to a residential block, the size and capacity that is more closely aligned with that of a child development home, CDH, or expanded child development home would mitigate potential objectionable traffic conditions.
Point of
Okay, hold
order,
on,
Madam Chair.
Yep, let me
I have a
give
point
you
of order.
1 second. I think that the process has to, I need a Robert Rules of Order check, please. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Palmer. I believe the resolution actually has to be presented
moved
or
first.
it has to be amended after it's brought to the table.
Okay. All right, then
You're challenging all my understanding of Robert's Rules of Orders tonight, all in one meeting. Whew.
Okay, then I make a motion to consider.
Hold on, can we just get clarification first? Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Palmer, can one of you check Robert's Rules of Order for me, please?
Yes, it's secondary. Pardon me, subsidiary motion to amend is a motion to modify the wording of a pending motion. So you need the pending motion.
The motion has to be made first.
Yeah.
Before I move that motion, I just do want to say, like, we've all been talking about compromise here. Like, this is compromise. Like, you're looking at both sides saying, hey, like, let's accept this resolution. Okay, this resolution has guardrails in it that protect the community.
It doesn't, but it doesn't have guardrails. It has a list of people's complaints, because we can't put guardrails in to our resolution and think it actually provides guardrails.
Sure, it has a list of concerns.
Okay.
Okay, it has a list of concerns, and in the resolve clauses, it has exactly what we've discussed throughout the entire process with both the applicant and the residents. Okay?
And if we wanted there to be guardrails, the applicant would put it in their order, in their submission.
Sure.
If we're really, if they're really amenable to working and participating in this community, then they would do it and take us out of it, quite honestly. But they're not doing it, which leads me to wonder why. But so that's one thing. Before I hear from Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Yates, you were making a point of order, but I think I covered it. Is that the case?
Yes, that I believed that an amendment couldn't be recognized at this time.
Yep. Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
I just want to add that I made critical edits to the initial resolution that did strike a lot of the language and put a catch-all, which Commissioner Yates adopted in his resolution, that addresses en masse the constituency concerns.
Okay.
So that language is already there that encompasses, the record is clear. We have had, and thanks to Commissioner Cohen's credit, multiple meetings with constituents from 4B06 and 4B07. We had a meeting with the applicants at Capital City. They did take the extra step to do a second study with keeping in mind the Cap City constituency during the school year. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation. As I stated in my previous comments, there are things that the city can and should do to mitigate some of the, if not all of the constituents' concerns. So I do want everyone to take that into consideration as well as we vote on Commissioner Yates's revised resolution. Thank you so much.
Okay. Before we go back to Commissioner Cohen, I do also want to point out that initially this was within Commissioner Johnson's boundaries, so she is fully read in on this issue. Commissioner Cohen, I think we're back to you with resolution.
No, I just want to make the point that, you know, if we're looking for compromise, my point is this is compromise. You know, we've moved folks who are in complete opposition to supporting this resolution. It sounds like the applicant is supportive of the resolution. You know, I don't see the need for having an additional resolution. That's something that the commission will have to vote on. You know, that's.
Yep.
So with that said, I move resolution 4B 240905.
Is there a second? Okay, and just procedurally, we have the second and then we'll have the amendment. Is that correct? Is there a second? So going once, going twice. Given that there's no second, then the resolution fails. All right, let's move to the next resolution, which was the one that Commissioner Yates added to the agenda.
Yeah, Chair Brooks.
Yes.
Per the rules of procedure, I'm prepared to share my screen and read the resolution to the commission.
Yes.
If I could do so now. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, this is draft resolution 4B 240906, supporting the request for special exception at 245 Peabody Street Northwest, BZA case 21101. I'm going to read this pretty quickly since everybody can follow along on the screen, but I do want to follow the rules as we've outlined them. Our ANC 4B takes note of the following. The applicant, on behalf of Estrellas Montessori, requests a special exception under subtitle U 203.1H pursuant to subtitle X 901-2 to operate a CDC at 245 Peabody Street Northwest and Advisory Neighborhood Commission 4B. They're proposing a new child development center serving 82 children with 20 staff and a former church that's been unused for several years. There's no other child development center within 1,000 feet of the proposed location is prohibited by subtitle U2031G. Daycare costs in the District of Columbia are by some measures the most expensive in the nation. Some of this increased cost is due to a shortage of daycare availability, with one study reporting only enough seats for 71% of demand for early childcare with decreasing availability since 2018. The shortage is causing disruptions and increasing costs for parents across the district economy. Advisory Neighborhood Commission 4B has previously expressed concern about the continuing and increasing need for quality, affordable childcare within the District of Columbia and within the Commission boundaries in Resolution 4B 191108 and BZA Case 20111. The applicant in this case, Estrellas Montessori, has a successful track record of operating a licensed daycare at 5331 Colorado Avenue Northwest in Ward 4 for many years with a capacity of 148 children. While some neighbors along Peabody Street Northwest have expressed concerns about traffic and parking from the daycare, the District Department of Transportation's report on the proposed daycare concluded that the impact of the project will be, quote, moderate to minor. Other neighbors have expressed support. The district's Office of Planning has submitted a report finding the proposal meets the requirement of Subtitle U and is therefore in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations and map. The applicant is engaged in a pattern of good faith engagement with the community and the commission beginning January 2024. They have conducted and updated a traffic study as well as agreed to several efforts to mitigate traffic and parking concerns. Resolved that ANC 4B expresses support for the application for the special exception in BZA case 21101. That ANC 4B believes the transportation demand management plan reached collaboratively between the applicant and the DDOT is sufficient to mitigate any traffic impacts on the neighborhood, including banning alley usage, providing parking beyond the minimum required, and providing new bike racks. The ANC 4B likewise supports the applicant's proposed conditions, but is concerned about the proposed hours limitation that may prohibit the applicant from providing late pickup or childcare for shift workers or emergency workers. This then authorizes the co-introducers and myself to represent this before it, and that a member, the chair may authorize another commissioner if we're unable to do it. And then there's some legalese here explaining how a properly noticed meeting is required to have this carry great weight, and then a potential vote count. Having read that and shared my screen, Chair Brooks, I would move resolution 0906 and ask for a second.
I
Okay,
second.
okay. Any discussion before we move to the vote? All right, all in favor?
I move for a roll call vote.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Cohen moved for a roll call vote. So we'll go in numerical order. 4B01,
Abstain.
4B02,
Yes.
4B03,
Yes.
4B04,
Yes.
4B05,
Abstain due to conflict of interest.
4B06,
Aye. Yes.
4B07,
Abstain.
4B08, which is me. Yes. 4B09, absent. 4B10.
Yes.
Okay. The motion carries. All right, the next and last item on the agenda is a letter requesting audit of the settlement agreements approved by the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration, formerly known as the Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration, to ensure enforceability and racial equity. Commissioner Palmer, Yates, and Brooks. Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, just making sure I'm not muted. Thank you. This letter requests that the DC auditor audit protests and settlement agreements approved by the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration to ensure enforceability and racial equity. The ABCA is the entity that issues and renews licenses that enable businesses to sell alcohol. A settlement agreement results from negotiation with an ANC or others that places restrictions on a business's operations. These are above and beyond those already required by law and regulation. The commission has considered this process extensively, and some commissioners have expressed concerns that protests and settlement agreements are selectively pursued and implemented in a way that either intentionally or implicitly targets Black and immigrant-owned businesses. Settlement agreements are not consistently applied to businesses, and their provisions vary, some seeming to target homeless individuals and potentially raising other constitutionality concerns. This commission letter again requests an audit from the DC auditor to consider what businesses are subject to these agreements and the provisions that apply to them to ensure they are fair. And I don't know if anyone else who was on this has any comments on it as well.
I do, actually, and then I'll go to you, Commissioner Yates. I think it's fair to see in our 6-year tenure that we've seen settlement agreements used as a weapon against small businesses inside the boundaries of of ANC 4B. And if you can only imagine, how that extrapolates out to other businesses in other areas of the city as well. And it has made it difficult for us as a commission to engage meaningfully with businesses on settlement agreements and/or in aiding them and assisting them in growing their businesses, right? So we have some settlement agreements that have been in place forever and are unable to get out of them in some cases. And so this is problematic and derogatory and a lot of other adjectives that I could use. I'll stop there. Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Commissioner Palmer for bringing this resolution forward. I think this is really an important topic to think about. I think one of the things that makes this clear is that while we struggled with it internally, and I think our commissioners have done a very good job of being principled and engaging in this process well, the legacy of people who've come before us and people who operate in other parts of the city isn't necessarily as clear. And I think it's important that we look. So it also means that it's not a problem that we can fix individually, right? That we're not able to say that, like, yes, we acknowledge that some of these settlement agreements are clearly racist, or that they clearly have troubled backgrounds or impose unlawful conditions. And so we need to look at it systemically. And I hope by asking that the auditor will take this up and provide the data that's necessary to make the real change that's needed to be made citywide to ensure that our process is fair and treats all businesses equally so that people from all backgrounds can succeed in the District of Columbia.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No. Is there a motion? Commissioner Palmer, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was saying I'll move, but Michelle raised her hand also, so I don't know.
Right. It's
I
fine.
was on mute as well.
I don't know. She could have been spotting a fly for all.
Okay, I move the
Yeah.
resolution, or I move the
Is
letter.
there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe I saw every hand. That's everyone. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes the meeting. At this point, we have adjourned. Everyone have what's left of their evening. So good night.
Good night, everyone. Take
Aye.
care.
Aye.